Sure. So, okay. All right. I guess we'll get the meeting called to order here. For introduction purposes, we have Fred DeAndrea here today from Comcast. Fred was one of the people that we work on with respect to the franchise agreement, and he's the government, actually the title here, Director of Government and Regulatory Affairs with Comcast. So what we'll do is we have to get the meeting, the official parts of the meeting done here first, and then we'll turn it over to you. Since this is the first meeting of the year, it's considered a reorganization type meeting. Every year we have a redo for the chairman type vote. So the chair last year was Dimitri. Dimitri, if you want to, if anybody's interested, I don't know if Dimitri is still interested, or if anybody else is interested, this is the time for people to decide.
I still have an interest if people will have.
Okay. Anybody else out there? Anybody with vote, support?
Of the four of us? I second Dimitri.
All right.
Actually, you stick the guys who
aren't here, exactly. Okay, is there a third?
Yeah, third.
Okay. Anybody else?
I'll go along
Take a
with
vote. Go along? There it is. It's official. Chair, I'll now turn it over to you.
All right, well, thank you. That was, thank you very much for your vote of confidence for another year of the T&T committee.
And Mr. Chair, since this is the first meeting that's being taped for YouTube, it may be good for us to introduce everybody at the table here, because there's 4 members, or 4 of the 7 members are actually committee members. Then we have a council liaison and then several staff liaisons. So we want to go around and make the introductions. You want to start off as one of the board members, as the chair?
Sure. So Dimitri Schneiberg, I've been fortunate to be on this committee. I think this is my 4th or 5th year serving, 2nd year now as chair. And I come from an IT education background. And just to generally kind of set the stage for what this committee does, this committee advises the township on matters related to IT, infrastructure and otherwise, as well as, so both for IT internal township uses as well as the use of technology as it affects the members of the town. So things like the website, the cable channel. We are certainly purely an advisory committee, so our recommendations then go to council, and it's ultimately council's decision to act upon those recommendations. So with that said, maybe we'll go to the right, introduce the committee members. Pete?
Okay, Peter Toro. I think I've been on the committee for 2 years now. And I'm in my 19th year with IBM, and just living a dream.
Tom Ward, I've been on the committee for a long time. Not the longest one, but it's a long time. I've been with UPS for 21 years in engineering and technology jobs for most of that time, and I'm still got them here.
I'm Victoria Napolitano, and I'm the Town Council Liaison to this committee.
I'm Roger Boyell. I'm self-employed as an engineering consultant. Most of my work is in electronics. I frequently serve as an expert witness in the legal forum.
Tom Rochelle, Deputy Manager, Chief Financial Officer, one of the staff liaisons to the township. This is Fred. Fred is not part of the council. He's just a speaker today from Comcast.
John Pokowitz, I'm the MIS coordinator for the township.
I'm Joe Galbraith, I'm the library director.
There you go.
Okay, great. Now that we have the introductions out of the way, basically you have the agenda in front of you. The first thing that I wanted to do, and make sure I did it early in the meeting before anybody left rather than later, is establish our meeting schedule for the year. Obviously it is April and we're just having our first meeting, and I want to make sure that this kind of time period doesn't go by, so that we just establish a good schedule that is locked down. My proposal is to do a bi-monthly meeting. So the next one would be June, so on and so forth. So generally, let me float that out there. How would everybody feel about a bi-monthly schedule? Good acknowledge with nods.
Generally speaking,
That's better than quarterly.
Yeah. Or whatever we're
I prefer as needed, to be honest with you, but that's-
And I'm fine with that, and that means we're gonna meet in August, which, again, I'm also fine with. So, right up through December,
That would be my preference, yes.
I have no objection.
Mr. Royale?
Yes, can we make it the same day of the week, and same week of the month?
That would, again, be my preference. So if everybody's okay, generally speaking, with today, so this is Wednesday, we are in the third Wednesday of every month, of every other month, excuse me.
So we're adding 2 extra meetings a year?
Well, at the moment, we don't have any meetings on the schedule, so we're kind of establishing what we want that schedule to be. So, yeah, the next meeting, I mean, we can add other meetings as needed, but the next meeting would be then June 18th. Wednesday, June 18th.
Someone will have to, I won't be there, but someone else will have to be here.
John, is that okay with you?
Oh, sure, yeah, whatever needs to be done.
6:30 PM, sounds like a good time.
Cool. You okay?
Yeah, works for me.
Okay. All right, so that's what we'll establish, third Wednesday of every month, 6:30 PM. And in this location,
Every other month or something?
every other month, every other month. And Tom, you could put out the public notices?
Sure.
Thank you.
Oh, we have another committee.
We're all in agreement that Joyce is the new chairman.
Welcome, Joyce.
Thank you.
Let me just, as you're sitting down, catch you up on a couple really quick things that just happened. One is your colleagues, without your ability to cry otherwise, reelected me as chair for the year.
Oh, good.
Thank you for that reaction. It's going the other way. Number 2 is we decided we're going to be meeting bi-monthly on the third Wednesday of every month at this time, at 6:30. Every bi-monthly. Right?
Alternate months.
Alternate months. Every 2 months, every other month.
Probably the most important thing to tell you right now is you're on camera.
Would have done my hair. Trust me.
I'm just saying.
It's sticking off.
Yeah, the gentlemen here take council and committee meetings and put them up on YouTube.
Wish I'd known that before I came.
So let's move forward with the agenda item. You're completely caught up now. That's basically what we covered. Oh, I'm sorry, we also have a couple guests. Fred is from Comcast, and he's going to be number 1 on the agenda. And Joe Galbraith is from the library, and he's joining us today. And I'm very happy to see him here. So first things first is, since last we met, which was in 2013, we want to fast forward and talk about cable channel. And thank you, Fred, for coming out and giving us a direct kind of explanation as to, from Comcast perspective, what's going to happen over the next few months.
Sure, it's my pleasure, Dimitri, and thank you. And again, my name is Fred DeAndrea. I'm the Director of Government and Regulatory Affairs for Comcast in New Jersey. Tom asked me out tonight to talk about the commitment Comcast made in its current franchise agreement, which called for a public access channel, specifically educational and governmental for the township. Right now, Comcast customers in Morristown, I believe, see an educational access channel that's managed out of Lenape Regional High School. As part of those franchise agreement negotiations, which occurred pre-2007, I think, Tom, I was involved in those early on. I had transferred to another division within the company, and I think they wrapped up, and the agreement was approved by the Board of, it was approved by the Board of Public Utilities in September of 2009. And one of the cable-related needs of the community was its own access channel. So that was granted, and it will occupy the same space that Lenape currently occupies on the channel lineup for Morristown residents in Channel 19. And with the pending opening of your new township building, now is a good time to talk about getting this process started. Because the programming will originate. I think that's the plan, to have it originate out of the new township building. which will require Comcast to build a fiber line directly into the building. So you'll be able to send and receive live signals, so that will be fiber directly into the building. I've ordered a survey to ascertain the costs. The contract speaks to providing that fiber return free of charge, I believe up to 250 feet. So you'll have to look in the contract that there may be some costs borne by the township.
I don't remember that part of it.
I was looking through, we can talk about that. And then we'll also, purchase the fiber transmitters and receivers that will enable you to send and receive a signal.
I thought it cost for additional drops. I remember there's one drop, but we can go to.
Yeah, the drop, and that's another component of courtesy services, I think, that you're referencing. So another commitment was to provide courtesy video.
No, I meant you have one, normally you'll have one area that you deliver the access to. If we wanted an additional access, say like the school
Like a
location
school.
or something, then we would pay for that second additional
Yes,
location.
that's right.
Well, from the pole to our mechanical room is only about 150 feet, so
We're good.
So it probably,
We'll have the pole move closer.
I'll get back to you. It probably won't amount to anything. So, yeah.
Well, some of the things, Fred, if you could talk about that I thought would be interesting is, this has been a long-standing discussion. I've been with the town 16 years, been trying to push for this. We always seem to run into, well, there's a couple things we talked to. We'll talk about the process of how we officially, in writing, say, we want to do the drop now. What happens when we do that? And then the fact that we now will have dead air until we fill that space. The issue we've run and we're trying to examine on our side right now is how are we going to host that and provide programming. There's various ways we could either do it ourselves. I know there's groups out there like Teleview that if you could speak to that.
Right.
And there's combinations. The issues we had for years is finding somebody, many towns do joint with the school, and the school actually works under their programming. Up until last year, our school has not supported that. Last year, they actually were starting to talk some support of that, but I know they've run into budgetary problems this year, so that's going to make it more difficult. That they said they're still interested, but they're not sure their level of commitment financially and I guess with programming and stuff like that. We have Joe here from the library as a potential with the library's interaction with doing that, because John had brought up in the town he was with before the library had a coordinator.
Sure.
And then there's the possibility of the township.
So this is for the record, let me just say that the access channel is granted to the township, so the governing body controls how that it is programmed, and the intent was to provide educational and governmental access, which you can define broadly, and establish access rules if you choose to clearly define who's eligible to provide content and what constitutes government and educational content. There's a couple different directions you can go in. You can pay for a third party like a Teleview Corporation, which does a really nice job, and they probably provide this service to dozens of municipalities across, not just New Jersey, but hundreds across the nation. They're based right down the road in Mount Laurel. I've asked their national sales director to send me a few neighboring towns that use the service, in case this committee wants to reach out to them for testimonials to see what their experience has been. They can offer a range of service from the most basic of service of what you can provide on one of these channels, which would look like basically a scrolling PowerPoint presentation, and where you would be providing updates for trash collection, leaf and brush pickup, events, committee and council meetings, to video. And they have the opportunity to import video from other sources, to run continuous updates on weather, traffic, stuff that you guys wouldn't have to aggregate and pull together. So that there are some benefits to using that service. Of course, there's costs associated with those, and usually they're monthly subscription fees. The township can seek out sponsors, PBS, and to underwrite, so you can't have any direct call to a sale or you know, reference the price of product, but it could be, you know, any local business that says this, you know, the Morristown Deli proudly is underwriting the Morristown football game or school play, that type of thing, to subsidize your production costs and any subscription fees you would incur with a third party like a Teleview. The other direction to go is to manage it yourself here at the township, which would require an investment in additional equipment. You know, that would probably, you know, we're not a vendor that's in that business, but, you know, I think you can probably like 10,000 and up, you know, it would include the basic, the rack equipment that you would store somewhere here at the township.
I believe we have that already scoped out in the building, correct?
It's, the hardware is being installed as we speak.
Okay.
So we do have that ability,
So
but
you have
that's
that,
where we
okay.
go.
And then, of course, it's the time, the volunteers, whether that's going to fall on you or other volunteers at this committee or other folks in town that have an interest in, you know, scheduling video. You're probably going to have at some time, a scrolling bulletin board of updates where you can take, you know, information from the community if you choose to do that and provide updates to the township.
Is there advertising allowed in that type as well?
Yes. That's not just for Teleview. That's across the board.
Okay.
You can seek sponsors to underwrite the costs of your operating costs.
Is there a hybrid approach where you can use part Teleview, part your own, or?
I mean, there's nothing that would prevent the township from, you know, buying nice cameras, and if you wanted to record, or even, you know, you could send this content, either send it DVD, or if you, I believe if you have a high-speed connection, you could probably stream this video to Teleview.
Okay.
That would be a question for Teleview,
Okay.
to work out.
Because we actually do have the equipment to record.
But yeah, if you had the equipment here, you could, you know,
Okay.
you could manage the video, or you could work something out with Teleview.
Okay.
One of the
Let me just ask
Go ahead.
on this point, I'm trying to understand Teleview's role. So if we already have the broadcast equipment that we can get the content out there, because it's getting installed, and Teleview's not going to be going to our football games and producing content, or council meetings and videotaping the show, we still have to produce the content, right?
That's right.
So then what role would they play other than like setting up a scroll?
In some ways, you've made your decision by purchasing this.
That's what it seems like,
This
you know.
equipment already. You know, the Teleview it's more of a convenience. You know, it's an out of the box type thing where they're going to manage it for you, and they have equipment in our facilities, so you wouldn't necessarily have to have it here, unless you wanted to, you know, stream content to their offices or something, you know, over and above what most towns do. But
So by virtue of having a rack of equipment, we pretty much are kind of already made the decision de facto to produce.
But not
you
necessarily.
could have a hybrid role. I mean,
Right.
because I'm not sure what expense was incurred in having that equipment, and it may be something you want to have in cases where you have a very important announcement to make, and you know the mayor or the governing body wants to get in front of the camera. Having that fiber feed directly in the township hall will enable the mayor to get in front of the camera and broadcast live to the community. That would be a benefit to having that.
And the hardware
that-
cost is the easiest cost. It's the labor, manpower after that, and that's where I have a concern that we're on our end, and maybe where Teleview could help out, because we don't want dead air. Once, correct me if I'm wrong, once we get this, you have that space, you're either running a constant computer board, like you're saying, or a scrolling board, which I know councils in the past were not happy with just selling with that. That's always been one of the rubs, is they wanted something that was gonna be of a standard that Let It Be does. You don't want to just go to a scrolling board. That's where we get that.
Yeah,
kind of mix.
it's a lot of time to fill throughout the course of the
You
week.
could have that on a website, just as easy. Scrolling board, all that info.
Yeah.
Right.
And you'll see, you know, if you sit down with Teleview, that they can embed their video on your website and have links, and so for, you know, residents that aren't Comcast customers, they could, you know, see the same content on your website. So there are some other benefits to working with them. And I know Denise Rolfe is the yeah, she's the national sales rep for Teleview. She'd be happy to come in and meet with the committee.
So Fred, that's a good point, because do you have metrics in terms of how many families have Comcast versus Dish, because when I look at my street, I see a lot of Dish, right?
I mean,
So-
we know what, you know, how many homes we pass and what our penetration is. I don't know that I have competitive numbers on what Dish and DirecTV's penetration is, or just residents who are using over-the-air broadcast. So I mean, that's something to consider when you're, you know, thinking about, you know, emergency management or those types of messages you want to get out community-wide. So this is supplemental. It's one communication vehicle. It's not going to be the be-all, end-all.
Correct.
Online, I mean, most people have broadband today, whether it's, you know, a wire-based provider like us or some type of Wi-Fi provider or wireless, like Verizon Wireless. I mean, the other thing we talked about Lenape. So school districts are very good partners because, you know, some schools have the building curriculum and volunteers and students who want to experience either being in front of or behind a camera. They like that. I mean, especially with this generation, it seems like they can't go 5 minutes without taking a selfie and posting pictures online and video. So I'm sure there'd be interest on that front in the school. And then, you know, so it's a mutually beneficial relationship where, you know, the school is using it, but then, you know, the payback to the town is maybe they tape your meetings,
Exactly.
and you know, could potentially down the road you may want to have it originate out, you know, the content originate out of the high school and middle school.
And that's why it's taken so long for Moorestown to come to this, was because we never had buy-in for the school. Like I said, up until last year, it's just unfortunate now they have the budget crunch that they have, that there was, the interest was there, but may make it more difficult because of the money, because it does work so well when they work in the curriculum. I was at Pennsauken, that's what they did. You know, they had it at the school as part of curriculum, and then the township would benefit by, you know, there's a new business in town, and they'd say, okay, you know, let's showcase that business. You know, who has the best pizza in town, who has this, and, you know, they go around and do different things. So that part was what the township participated in, and the rest of it was showing the football, you know, the homecoming dance and all that kind of stuff.
So Tom, if you remember, when we met with the board, they had said that WAMS does have a program, and the high school doesn't.
Yes, correct. Well, we've not had any further conversations since that last meeting, so we'll pick up more of that.
Do they have equipment at the schools now?
Not at the high
Cameras?
school, but at the middle school.
WAMS, yeah, they have like a quasi studio, and they have the cameras, and they have the green screen and a lot of the equipment.
Because that's where it gets into a lot, is how much you want to get into editing and stuff, and that's where it gets very
Yeah,
time
that should be
consuming.
my next question. Are you talking about having an editing suite somewhere on township property? Open to the public to use?
Put it on the second floor of the library.
Put it in the IT lab.
And, well, the only problem is you have to have access. In the lab downstairs.
Yeah,
Yeah,
in the IT lab downstairs, in the public IT lab.
And,
Yeah, but then you have to have somebody review it and make sure it's appropriate to go on
Right.
there. And
Yeah, and that was, I
Yeah.
think, one of
Stuff like
the
that.
items that was discussed during the franchise renewal, and the way this was defined was that as an educational and governmental access channel. It's not a pure PEG channel, which, you know, includes that public component, where you find in New York City where you could walk into a room and there's the equipment and do whatever you want.
Yeah,
So
town I
virtually
moved
say
here
whatever you
from
want.
had that, where they had an editing suite on the second floor of town hall, and a resident could get access to the equipment, provided they passed a Q&A with the person that was in charge of it as to what they intended to
So
do.
you're saying that's no longer allowed?
No, I mean,
Because
the governing body defined the channel. I mean,
Okay.
it's your channel. We don't exercise any editorial control over it as a company, but that would be up to the township to decide on, you know, let's write some access rules, and here's who's going to have access. The way that the contract reads is that educational programming will be provided by the school district or the governing body or a designated administrator. Government content will be provided by the governing body or a designated administrator. This way you don't have someone coming to town saying, I want access. And it could be, you know, someone that advocates hate speech coming in, that lives in town, and they could get up and spew whatever nonsense they'd like to. And, you know, if you have it open to the public, it's gotta be open to everyone within the township, on a first come, first served, non-discriminatory basis. So
Of their policies, procedures, access, like,
the contract itself protects you because it's narrowly defined as strictly educational or
Okay.
government. Some towns will, yeah, especially if it's a shared channel, so you have multiple municipalities. They want to get into more of that sharing arrangement, so that, you know, you get X amount of hours, here's who's qualified to provide content, those types of things.
where I was going with that was to see if you had access to other existing policies that we could maybe get our
It
hands
involves a
on.
lot
and
of,
try to-
it involves a lot of work, and not many towns do it. I
Okay.
think there's a good agreement I recall between maybe Washington Township and the Washington Township School District in Gloucester County.
Okay,
You recall the former mayor, Paul Moriarty,
yeah,
used to be I think, a consumer reporter on CBS
okay,
Philadelphia, so he wanted to get involved in the content and bring the school, engaging them and having them do some work. So that's something I'd be happy to share with you.
okay, that's great. We'll kind of save questions towards the end.
One of the other items you wanted to talk about was physically isolating the township.
The actual process of how that works.
Yeah, so that was, at the time of the, you know, pre-2007, that was a very labor-intensive and costly proposition to limit content along municipal boundaries, because the cable networks simply weren't built along municipal boundaries or even county boundaries. So, you know, since that time, technology has advanced, and, you know, pre-2007, it would have involved a lot of physical construction, going out, lashing and unlashing fiber on the poles throughout the township, and that was a point of a lot of discussion. Since that time, the technology's evolved. We're able to map content through our network down to the node level. So a node serves approximately 300 households in a community. So it's much easier, and it doesn't involve that physical construction. We can just map that content to the nodes that serve the households in Morristown. Perhaps in the Delran, Cinnaminson border, we'll have to see how that community, there may be some physical construction involved. If you know, a node serves both Delran and Morristown residents, we'd have to involve some work, but not nearly anything approaching what would have had to been done in the past. So it's much easier, and that's not something where, I know we contemplated, well, we'll need another 12 months to make this happen. We'll be able to, you know, we can start the construction process now, you know, on the back end. I can put in the request, you know, probably at a minimum, I'll need 90 days to get that fiber return squared away. But once we do that engineering, I don't think it's a big deal for us to, you know, when the time comes when you want to go live with the channel, it will just happen overnight. We'll do it in a maintenance window between like midnight and 3 a.m. Our engineers will map the content to the nodes that serve Morristown customers, and, you know, I don't want to say flip a switch, but it's something akin to that. And there'll be a cutover, so they'll no longer see the Lenape Educational Access Channel, and they'll see Morristown.
So it'll all start with when we send you an official letter from the mayor, I assume, says.
We're
that
ready
we
to
want you-
start. I mean, we don't need,
Well, we wanna
if
make
you want to do it to, you know.
But we want to make sure you don't flip that switch, and we're not ready yet.
No, we wouldn't do that. We wouldn't do that. You know, we'll work closely with you to make sure it's coordinated, because we don't want, you know, dead air either for any of our customers.
So you could actually do the infrastructure and still run Lenape until we're ready, and that's not a problem? Oh,
Exactly. You
okay.
continue to see Lenape up until
Yeah.
you're ready with content.
Okay,
Where's Lenape going?
well, we just won't be part of their customer base anymore. They're subscribers.
We're just going to preempt that content. We'll be feeding Morristown content to our Morristown customers, and they won't see Lenape.
And Lenape's will still go to Lenape.
Absolutely.
Correct.
Okay.
I don't think there'll be anyone in the town who has an issue with that. No.
No
I
doubt.
don't imagine there's many students that are paying not to go to Morristown, going to Lenape. I don't know. You should be fine.
Yeah. Any questions from the,
Yeah, does Comcast have any restrictions on advertising, content, any type of regulatory, conditions in terms of what gets broadcast?
Yeah, PEG content is supposed to be non-commercial in nature, and that goes back to the Federal Cable Act, and it's in the contract. It's defined as non-commercial. But as we discussed earlier, it's acceptable, and several towns do this, solicit sponsorships to underwrite the township's cost for programming. So I think that's acceptable and permitted. It's nothing that we proactively audit, but from time to time, if towns, are getting a little too aggressive and, running infomercials, or we've seen cases where, they're selling advertising to a used car lot and saying that you can have this '87 Dodge for $1,000. Like that's not the intent for this programming. I'm sure that's not what your residents expect to see either.
What about in the billboard scroll, the borders and things like that? Is there allowed to be advertising there, or kind of limited to the
Like a
sponsorship?
banner ad or something like that?
Yeah, like the banner advertisements that you see online on the billboard scrolls.
I mean, again, it's how you position it and how you would present it. If it's somehow in that PBS model of, you name the business, Lockheed Martin is proud to support Morristown educational and governmental access, that's fine.
A lot of times you'll see, I've seen a channel where it'll show like the local social clubs, the Rotary, certain symbols, or the Lions Club or something.
Yeah, and that's
I've
all
seen that kind of
civic.
stuff.
It's within
Civic,
the
right,
spirit of
organizations.
what these channels were created for.
Lesser commercial things like yard sales, there's no issues with that, correct?
I don't see that being a problem. Again, that's something that
Again,
we would audit. No, it's a good question. It's
More of a
fair.
community, that's more of a community thing.
Yeah, that's more of a.
Well, they're all community. I mean, it's a question of, it's still business, though. I mean, technically, they should be, legally, they're supposed to be paying taxes on yard sales. No one ever chases that, though, and I don't want to, I just want to find out where the delineation lies.
Even if it was like something egregious, like I referenced before, it would be, there's nothing punitive in nature that we wouldn't come to you, and I don't think the FCC is looking to penalize towns. I mean, you would have to really run amok with it would have to be really egregious for the FCC to get involved and say, yo, you got
And
to find you more
that'll
stuff.
be for this committee to make recommendations to the council, and then we'll have to make sure, I would recommend that we do have some kind of policy, obviously, to govern, what type of access.
Because you
that
run
can
into
only
different
protect us.
competing civic groups. So, if you're going to let Rotary advertise, that their car wash, you need to let Lions do their yard sale.
Well, we're gonna do the breakfast, right?
Or the pancakes are.
So same thing with
breakfast.
political committees. If you have the Republicans, you give them an hour.
Well, political is another story, and we can talk about that, and I'll send some specific guidelines along those lines. That's typically something that is not, most towns do not allow the political advertising.
Oh, okay.
What about debates, not advertising, but like local debates?
I believe some towns will host debates. I will send you some I don't want to misspeak, I'll send you some specific guidelines around the political, I won't say advertising, but just political debate.
Well, I mean,
And
generally speaking,
dialogue.
generally speaking, I think one of the things that we would hope for, because we need to put governance around this whole thing, is if you have a template or standards that other towns have used that we can use as a basis.
Yeah,
That would be
we do
very
have
helpful.
one interlocal agreement. I haven't seen too many that get into really fine detail in New Jersey, but we could seek some out for you, and you could probably find something online too.
They're
Look at
on
other
the internet.
other
I found a
communities.
couple on the internet where they give you the whole.
Larger cities will
Yeah.
have those types of rules, especially, if once you open it up to political, you're going to have challengers are going to want time, and sometimes it's easier to just have those rules up front, so expectations are set, and you have clear guidelines and parameters. But I know some towns, certainly do. If they're going to host a debate, I think it's acceptable. Put that on public access.
Put it around dinner time, a couple of people's diets, really.
Mhm.
Appetite.
People People like that. I mean, one of the things that I think everybody's looking for, and certainly some of the folks in this room would like to see, is just more communication. And quite frankly, technology has been a limiting factor in this town to do the type of communication I know council and everybody wants to see. Right. So to get debates out there right now, you have debates in this town, and there's 20 people in the room, and there's no value to it.
Sure.
This is an opportunity to actually get candidates more informed, so it's perfect, as long as it's allowed.
Well, yeah, we'll look forward to what Fred sends us.
Let me do some research on that, because it's something I haven't looked into in some time.
Anything on the timing and the setup of the actual station and all that kind of stuff? Any questions or?
Yeah, I think last time we talked on how long the policy would take to draft, because I think you'd want to have that in place before you turn it on, right?
Correct. But what I just learned today, it sounds like Fred's saying, is there's no harm in them actually starting the infrastructure part of it, and then we can still work on this other stuff on the side until we.
Oh, yeah, I'm just saying that.
If you expect to be ready in 2014,
Right.
now if you're gonna take 3 years to do it,
Right.
Right.
we might hold off. but-
Years ago, we were always concerned, and I guess probably pre-2007, that when you isolated, that was it, that we had.
Right, and
But now it's not the
because
case,
it was
you're saying.
physically, we had to go in
Right.
and that, we were physically altering our cable lines. We don't have to do that now.
So that's actually interesting for.
Yeah,
our side,
my
you know.
point was more around developing a timeline that says, okay, it's gonna take us this long to draft the policy, and this long to do this, and this long to do that, and then, you know, what would get flushed out is your turn-up date based on those events.
Well, the first event we have to find out is who's hosting it. That's the most
There's,
important one, as far
There's
as.
a trade group, Tom, in New Jersey called JAG, Jersey Access Group.
Oh, yeah.
I'll send you a liaison to that group.
Okay,
and they
I've
could-
dealt with them before.
Yeah, I imagine they'll have many of the templates that you might want to use to establish some form of access rules and programming guidelines. In fact, they have a conference coming up. Let me email you. Might be someone from the committee, if they have time, they might want to attend that
Okay,
and talk to other communities that are actively involved in PEG access.
Well, let's talk about the one obvious milestone here, and that is when Town Hall is going to be ready. Because prior to that, obviously, there's not much we can do with the cable channel. So what is that date?
May 19th.
May 19th.
May 19th for town hall side,
The library begins to move on
and around June
the
2nd
second, ninth.
for the library,
The
somewhere in there.
building will be fully occupied by June 9th.
All right, so that's already within the 90-day window, so it sounds like there's no reason not to get started. We know exactly where the trunk's going to go, and the fiber needs to be run. So the engineering, I don't see any reason not to move forward with that, right?
And if the committee wants, there's, put us in the past, I could certainly reach out and have Telview, they're eager to come out, and if you want to hear what they have to offer from their angle, and we can see if it works with our existing, if we, some kind of hybrid possibly, while we work on another solution, fully staffed solution, with volunteers then. You gotta remember volunteers, it's a tough part.
Yeah, is there funding to pay like a Bellevue for their services by the year?
Well, until we talked to them, we have no idea what the cost is gonna be, so.
So there's nothing in the budget for this service.
Would we want to be
Well, like-
talking with them before June 9th?
Well, I mean, I can handle the calls originally,
I mean, I would like to meet with them, and that's next month, which is fine.
I won't be at that meeting.
We don't have a meeting in May, but we can set one. We can set it for any time.
Well, yeah, I can call an emergency meeting if, or a special meeting, call
Mm-hmm.
if need be. Let me call, Denise.
I'm just saying, it does make sense to talk to them sooner rather than later.
I'm trying for 2 years.
I'm not questioning you at all, I'm just trying to get my mind straight on it.
No, I
It'd
agree.
be nice to understand what services and get a quote.
Right.
We'll try and do that next month.
Well, it sounds like with Comcast, we're at least 3 months out, correct? So assuming everything went as
That's right.
smoothly as possible, how quickly could we have that switch flipped from your perspective?
I would say I need a minimum of 90 days, just because there are other projects in the pipeline, not because it physically is gonna take us 90 days. I'm just not sure how. It's certainly much easier than the days when we had to, send crews out to alter our network on the poles, but now it's just a matter of getting this project in the pipeline, and I need to, balance that with other initiatives that are ongoing.
And realistically, we're not gonna be ready in 90 days.
That'd be July, mid-July, so do we have to meet with Teleview, or not have to, we don't have to do anything, I understand. Should we be meeting with Teleview during that 90-day window, try and get that?
Well, 90 days is just as fast as he can be.
It'll
We're
be the
not
earliest.
gonna be ready.
I didn't get to my question yet. The question was, does anything you're going to be doing does that change at all if Teleview is involved or not involved?
Yeah, that's a good question. If you opted to go with Teleview, I believe I know they have existing equipment in our hubs and head ends where our content originates in this area. So we probably can use the same equipment, but there may be additional engineering that needs to take place, whether it's adding a port or making sure that we have all the equipment we need on the Teleview end embedded in our facilities. I think it exists already. They already, we work closely with them, and they provide service to some of the towns that we provide service to. So I don't know. It's a good question. There may be some additional engineering.
Are there other vendors besides Teleview? Because we want to probably get quotes from several.
I think there are vendors that you could, for the equipment, you've purchased this other equipment, like
Yes.
the hardware. There are other vendors that work more in that space. I don't know of anyone that's offering the same service that Teleview offers.
Okay.
Or they're actively managing it for you.
Gotcha. Okay.
Would it be possible to contract with Teleview for 6 months or 1 year until the township is able to gear up? Or is it
That's a question for
Perennial
Teleview,
contract.
but I'm sure they're open to working with. I know in other towns, they contemplated a year contract. There's going to be some hardware purchase involved in the Teleview contract. So, I don't know if it's worth your while to do it for 6 months. Maybe it is. Maybe it isn't. Maybe we can. That's the question for Teleview, but I'm sure they would be accommodating if you wanted to look at it as a transition phase. You're going to work with them, and as you develop your lineup and of volunteers and your access rules, and engage the school, let them get beyond the budget issues they're experiencing. Until the time you're ready to go and manage it in-house, I think they could be that bridge for you.
And that's actually where I get the hybrid approach, I think, because my personal view is going to take us many months, if not a year, to get our own side of it. If we were just going to run it ourselves, I don't see that happening soon. And there's always that commitment, and volunteers, I've seen it over the many years I've been here. They'll come, then they'll move out of town, they'll get transferred somewhere else, then all of a sudden you don't have a volunteer base, but at least you'll still have that other party there. We know, and certainly in the local government here, no one's going to hire an employee to do this. There's no desire to do that on either side. I mean, the school would try to, we talked to them about working into the curriculum. That's still a possibility, but again, I don't think it's going to happen in this budget. So I really do think we should bring Teleview in. So we go from there.
Well, we're all in agreement. Let's schedule a meeting with Teleview.
I will do that. Sure, okay.
I'll email you our contact information.
Yeah,
Now, how many, so I heard you mention the library is going to be adjacent to.
we're in the same,
or
we're sharing
part
the
of-
same building.
Any other entities in there, like the police?
No.
Or no? I know you wanted to talk about courtesy services on the video end. Each account within the building is entitled to service. So the library would probably have their own. In the case of the library, in addition to video service and 3 pieces of digital equipment for monitors and televisions. We'll do a cable modem in the libraries.
Which we already have.
You already have, okay.
Yeah, we have a Comcast business.
Yeah, but you don't have the one, this is a courtesy.
This will be a courtesy that could be
No, I think we do,
supplemental. Oh, okay.
but not in the new one. We have it in
In
the
the old,
existing.
an existing one, okay,
Yeah,
great,
there was
great.
one, there was a line pulled, oh God, I wanna say 2008.
Okay,
It was pulled in but not used.
got it, got it. So we would, that commitment would carry over to the new library. Any outlet that you want service on within the township building, I don't know if you would want 20, 10, 5, I'm not sure how big the building is. We would waive the recurring subscription fees, but beyond those first 3 monitors, the township would have to pay the rental fees for the digital equipment, for what's called a DTA. And the video service we provide is at the expanded basic level of service.
Okay.
And that's the vast majority of your cable network. It's certainly going to capture all the news networks that you would want to be monitoring throughout the day for work purposes.
Great.
Now, at some point, in this process, I'll want our construction guy to come out and meet with someone at the township to see, where your conduit is and where your utility room is, or where you plan to have your infrastructure.
Take care of that.
Okay, great.
All right. Anybody have anything else for Craig?
Yeah, when you follow up Denise, she'll be happy to provide neighboring towns that use the service. I think, in this area, I'm trying to think off the top of my head who in Burlington County. I'm thinking of Atlantic County, where I know all those down beach communities are very active with Telview. Ventnor, Margate, Longport, Ocean
I
City.
know Ocean City was.
Ocean City, that's right down there,
Yeah.
you see it. Egg Harbor Township, Hopewell Township in Mercer County, and that's I think they do a good job too, where they partner with the regional high school there, and that there's a lot of benefit to having that relationship with the school district, as long as they don't lose sight of who physically controls the channel. We see that over time where the township, for whatever reason, they'll lose interest, and a decade will go by, and the school is the only one using it, and they feel like they own it, and then you have a new governing body, and they try to pull back, and the educational institution blocks that, and there's can be some fireworks from time to time. But so I think you're doing the right thing by establishing, written access rules up front, so expectations and usage is clear for everyone.
Okay. And I think the contract itself says.
Yeah, it definitely limits it to what type of programming, so.
Okay.
Protects the township from, any claims from the public that this should be available on a first come, first served basis and for anyone to use. I mean, there's just a cost associated with that most townships, municipalities, when you're waiving what services to provide to residents, it's kind of a luxury to be able to maintain a studio with equipment and staff to help residents come in and use this. And quite frankly, this was, thought up decades ago, and today it's much easier for residents to, get on the soapbox on the web. Your iPhone, you can take high quality video and post on YouTube just as this meeting's being posted. So there's a lot of opportunities online for that, to get your messages out there. Self-promote.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
Let me ask one question. On your agenda, you have Open Doors Moorestown. Was that an item for Comcast to discuss?
No, that's these
No.
gentlemen here. We're going to give them an opportunity, since they're already videotaping council meetings, to kind of understand what their plans are, because that's part of what we're trying to plan for.
Okay.
So what I'm hearing then is no more 2-inch reels of videotape sitting on each deck.
Hopefully not.
I won't be up for it.
All right, thank you all.
Thank you very
I'll
much.
just walk right out.
I'll leave. Some of my
Tom,
cards
you're
here.
not,
I'm coming back.
You're not gonna need me for anything else here tonight, right?
We actually are gonna need you for the ownership of station.
Yeah, we're gonna be
Okay.
discussing that next.
Right.
We're gonna discuss that next.
Okay, great.
If you don't mind, because
No,
we've kind of
I
jumped
don't.
around to the
Not at all.
timeline already, we'll move open doors till after that item and get your feedback on some of those items that we're talking about.
Okay.
But, basically, Tom, did you want us to wait for you to?
No, you guys can start, I'll come back.
So I think one of the main things, Joe, that we've been discussing, this whole cable project is who's gonna own the station. So somebody within the township or an affiliated entity needs to, regardless of who's doing what, whether we're using an outsourced provider like Bellevue or doing everything in-house, somebody needs to oversee it. That's a township employee or employee of the school district that's affiliated with the town. So we approached the school district. We looked at all kinds of options, and one of the things that, quite frankly, John proposed, and he saw this very successfully down in Brunswick, is the library is kind of a neutral third party with a lot of credibility that really has the potential of establishing the right kind of level of governance around this type of effort, and especially since you have the school district that will hopefully be providing content. You have various rec committees throughout the town providing content that are not necessarily affiliated with, or under the purview of the township or the school board. They're independent, but they're part of the town fiber. And then you have government, and various programming that we're going to provide. So, the library can kind of pull all that together and be kind of a fair arbiter of who gets how much time, and establish the overall programming structure. So, in principle, I think we all really liked that idea when it was presented to us. And so, now you're here so that we can pitch you on it. And
The ownership, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, because that, based on the contract, the ownership stays with the township. You're
Right.
talking about, like,
Oversight.
administrating.
Oversight.
Administration.
Yeah.
Okay, I just wanted to.
Yeah, correct.
Make sure I
That's a
understood
great
that
point, Tom. Yeah, administrative oversight, basically the person that's gonna run the channel.
I think the library is the ideal location for something like that to take place. I don't know if you folks are familiar with a new technology buzzword in libraries. It's called maker spaces, where libraries are community spaces where all kinds of things can take place, from the creative arts, performing arts, digital things, and there's opportunity and potential. I'm not saying definite potential, but some potential for that to work into this community access television model. And quite frankly, a library space is probably the most centrally located in the township for something like that to happen. I mean, we're essentially the township's living room now, as it is.
And it has the longest hours of operation.
We have the longest hours of operation. We have a technology infrastructure in place to support it. The administration thing would be the only thing I'm a little cloudy on at this point, just because we have a very limited staff, and even more limited expertise. I have some knowledge of this. I've done it before, but way back in the day. I haven't done anything in the last 15 or 20 years with it, so I'm used to analog tape and big studio cameras and lugging around battery packs that weigh 50 pounds. But from what I'm hearing tonight, I think there's definite potential for the library to be that administrative hub for it, at least.
Well, and I think that's what kind of ties into the Bellevue conversation, because somebody needs to be the administrative hub. Now, how much hands-on they have to do,
Right.
that we can work
Right, I
through.
think we need to
I mean,
flesh
have the
that out.
option. We have the option of having kind of more hands-on talent here in town, or outsource the entire thing to a third
Right.
party, but still that third party has to report to somebody.
Well, it will always be to the township, as you said, that the township is ultimately responsible, but it's who we're delegating that
Right.
next part to, and it's still gonna be a shared responsibility. So even if it was the library and Joe, you're still gonna have some level of responsibility from the school, because they're gonna be providing a lot of content, and I think as it goes, there'll be a lot more interest, that people are gonna wanna see the different games and stuff like that. And maybe they financially can't do it now, but there'll be a point where they can do it. And same thing, the township is gonna have that, we're gonna be providing meetings, and things along those lines, and, so there is that shared responsibility.
So Tom, I think that's gonna be the most time-consuming piece is, you got multiple programs, the editing piece. Somebody's gotta look at 2
That's-
hours worth of
that's the
a
big
football
part.
game. And I gotta tell you, I gotta be honest, if you sign up Teleview for that, it's gonna be like a full-time contract for them. Cause think about, just the games alone, somebody's gotta watch a 2-hour game, make sure all the obscenities and
Correct.
the things are edited.
Right.
Town hall meetings, anything that's gonna be televised, has to be edited.
And make sure all the obscenities are edited.
That's right, so it's gonna be time consuming.
Well,
That's a question though. Do they have to be edited?
I would edit it, yes.
Oh, yeah,
I'm
you
not
don't,
saying would you edit, and I'm not saying would I edit it. I'm saying, how much does the FCC expect this
Well-
township broadcasting to itself to edit out some guy running in front of the camera, talking to somebody else, and a word slips out, okay? Which is what we're talking about, okay?
yeah, but me as a parent, how many times am I gonna let that slide
Right.
before I just say, my kids aren't watching the channel anymore,
that's-
because nobody's editing
And,
it.
and I'm not sure the
And that's fine.
FCC's,
I'm just saying,
the council's not
that's
gonna want
what
that.
could happen.
Yeah,
Or the
I
public.
mean,
the
that's,
public's gonna call us and
yeah,
start
they're gonna
complaining.
say,
And
what's
if
going
somebody,
on?
and if somebody, and who's gonna be the person that's gonna be editing content of a town council meeting, and, I'm sitting here editing out the bleep words, and all of a sudden Victoria's gonna say something, and I'm gonna just linger my finger on the edit button. Oh, sorry, Victoria, I edited her. Now, it's the reverse situation. Now it's not editing, now it's censorship.
Yeah, but for
So,
council
good point.
meetings,
I'm just throwing this out there.
but I would recommend for council meetings that we don't live tape, that we delay, and that can be corrected in that point. If you knew during the meeting, the clerk notes
Yeah,
in her thing is to go back, because that's the way our recording equipment works, you can tell exactly the time, she can note, you go back and you just, I doubt it's gonna be a council person, but if there was somebody it's more likely to happen from somebody from the crowd, and even then, I don't know where you're gonna get from that, but
I'm not asking what you would likely do. I'm not asking, and I'm not trying to put it forth, what I would likely do.
that's what a policy's gonna come up with.
Exactly, and that's going to be 10 years from now when, when very likely that I won't be on this committee, and hopefully you're retired and sitting on a beach in Ocean City.
Well, that was some of our point for asking him if he could already give us what other towns.
and Tom, my
Pete says he's already found stuff on his website.
yeah, so that,
Does
I
it
found,
address that?
I found stuff that's like 20 to 40 pages long of policy that goes into advertising, it goes into the whole political thing that we talked
We
about.
just gotta adapt it to our.
Yeah, that's right, you have to adapt it, but I guess my point with editing is that's potentially where the volunteers come in, because you're gonna need like a pool of people if you get a lot of content to edit it. It's not a one-man job.
I think
It's not.
seniors and interns would be a good.
Somebody that's responsible, that has good judgment.
If I
They
may,
need a
just
person
to
to
structure,
determine who's going to be
yeah,
a responsible intern and senior citizen as well.
let me just structure this conversation, because a lot of times in these meetings, we've started jumping to topics like, are we delaying council meetings or not? When really, we need to settle the high-level stuff, right? And the first high-level thing is, who's gonna administer the site, right? And so I'm very encouraged by what I hear from the library, and Joe, I
Yeah,
imagine
well-
you need to go back and have discussions
With the board.
with the board.
I
and-
do.
And let us know. I mean, part of your decision is probably gonna be, how much work is it gonna be, and, all of those
Yeah,
types
that'll
of
be
things,
key.
which we don't really know yet. I mean, part of that is, if there's an interest from the library, what I would suggest is then, please continue to participate in these meetings. When Teleview comes in, come in with us, and we'll kind of work together to figure that out, because then it'll really be a partnership, as it should be.
I'm perfectly happy to do that.
Okay, okay, fantastic.
Thanks for coming out, Joe.
Thank you, Joe.
Absolutely. Go pick up your daughter.
I'm still waiting for the text.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because you've got two components. You've got the body that's gonna have to be editing this content. you've also got who's gonna be providing you the content. You know, you're gonna have to have a trustworthy group of people who are going out there and gathering the content that you're gonna put it on out there. I mean, it's not gonna be a live stream, someone standing on the sidelines of a football game with a camera streaming it right straight to that channel. Or
Oh,
a
yeah, you
lacrosse
can't
game,
control
or
that. You
a
can't
play,
control that.
whatever.
Yeah.
We're not gonna do live.
So,
Yeah.
you know, there's all sorts of things that you are gonna have to flesh out in the policy before we really know what kind of time we're talking about. It may very well be that, the township will be responsible for any of the actual gathering of the content, only editing it
Right.
and putting it out there.
And that's where we may be putting up cart before the horse, because I think we should probably start with the policy and kind of frame out and build requirements, Tom, if you will, which will drive everything, you know, going forward.
Yeah.
So for example, as we create requirements and build the policy, then we go back to the library and say, hey, this is what we think your effort's gonna be, right? Could you guys sign up for it?
Either that, or go to the library first and say, what is your effort, and then design the policy to that, to go either way.
Yeah, but then you may be limiting yourself.
Because there's also gonna be a
You do.
technology component there too, you know.
But we also
it's
wanna
gonna
scare
require
you off too.
No, but I think, I see it all the time. I mean, people jump into projects, they don't do the proper upfront work, gathering the requirements, taking those requirements and building a
About that for years
timeline
too, right?
and a plan. I mean,
Yeah, we have to get our ducks in a
Right,
row.
yeah,
So
right.
when we
I mean,
launch it,
we
it
gotta
isn't
figure
a
out when
failure.
we can
It's
turn the
not-
switch
Yeah.
on,
Yeah,
Tom,
it's not dead
right?
space.
And that's gonna be based on building a
PRE.
project plan and
These are
timeline.
things that this committee's been talking
Yeah.
about for years. I mean, really, it's stuff that's been talked about. the
Well, I'll do
policies
anything I
and
can
all
on
that.
my part to
Yeah.
make this a success.
Well, thank you, Joe. And this is what I really want to identify is the parallel streams, right? So we've got, you know, we've kind of have some buy-in and some idea of ownership. Up until this meeting, we didn't have any idea of ownership. So at least we're making some progress in that regard. Governance, policies, I mean, that's something we've been talking about and absolutely needs to be handled. So I think the question is, who and how do we move forward with actually doing this beyond the kind of the web research that you did, which is great, but how do we actually turn it into a Morristown policy?
Well, I think what we could do is have a subcommittee, 3 or 4 people, take a really good example or a couple of examples,
See a couple of ones.
and maybe it's merging the best of 4 or 5 of them
That's exactly what.
and say, hey, this is, I think, what we want to go forward with, present it to the committee, and then
Right.
kind of check that off and say, okay, now let's create tasks from these policies and just start figuring out who does what and figure out a timeline on how to get to end game, right? Because, you know, we may be thinking 90 days, but at the end of the day, we may be actually looking at 6 to 7 months to get everything in
That's
place,
more realistic.
right?
Right. Yeah.
Based on the policies, because, you know, if we've got strict policies, we've got to make sure that they're enforced, right? And the things are in place to enforce them.
We can also stage it potentially, people. We can have,
We could
you know,
stage it.
plan, part A of going live is getting a bulletin board up there. Because quite frankly, even a bulletin board that has Morristown information is more useful than anything that we're covering right now with Lenape.
At the same time, though, you want to start with a bang, not with just a bulletin board. People look at it once and maybe never again.
Yeah, I
They don't
agree with
return.
Roger,
That's a good
because I
point.
think
That's a good point.
people would be, if it's a bulletin board, and I look at Lenape, and I don't look at it because most of the time it is a bulletin board. I get more out of a website,
Right.
right? Because now I can look at it on my phone, I can look at it on my laptop, I can look at it on my TV. But Roger, you have a great point. You have to differentiate the channel so that you have content that you really can't see on a laptop, a PC, or an iPhone.
And the first day is the critical day.
I agree.
And that's what councils
Open it up
have
with a
always
bang.
been, councils
Yeah.
previously always against just a bulletin board, because people will go from the high quality that Lenape currently provides, and then they're gonna go and just see this bulletin board, they're gonna go, what's going on here? The other thing is, you gotta remember, we're pulling all this information together,
Mhm.
and we don't do anything until we take this to council as a recommendation. The council has to give the blessing to everything. So right now, that's why 90 days, first of all, we're moving into a town hall, so we gotta pack all this stuff up, we gotta
Library.
roll out everything, all the computers Don has to work on. Then you're gonna have, even when we're in the building, you're going to have fixing the problems that come up when you just got an error and this doesn't work, that doesn't work. So you're talking at least 60 days are lost between now and then, just on that kind of stuff.
You know, Tom, maybe to Roger's point is, you may want to pick a point in time in the future, and not the far future, but open it up with a bang. Maybe it's some type of Moorestown event that's televised, maybe partially live, maybe, recorded, but, pick an event that people are gonna wanna tune into the very first day it's turned on.
Yeah,
great
We're not gonna make Morristown Day, and we're not gonna make 4th of July, because
Right.
everybody's outside the 90 days. But what's the one they call it, what's the?
Autumn and
Morristown.
Autumn and Morristown.
Yeah.
We're lucky if we can do it in 2014,
You're right.
but let's try. We might also want to run a trial, not for public access, just to see how we're doing. That is a simulated live show, ready to flip the switch, but don't flip it yet until we have a week or two of
Right.
rehearsal.
Like a test group who will look at it and give us feedback.
Right,
Just a note or two.
yes.
Good idea.
I know you two are both tied up for the next 60 days, as you just said. But during that 60 days, the subcommittee that you were referring to could be
Work those
working.
policies together. Right.
Exactly.
And anything-
Well, I don't think we get done in 60 days, but they
Correct.
could work through that 60 days to get something.
Like Pete said, pulling the best from, Fred said he's gonna send me some stuff, Pete identified some stuff.
Yeah.
When he sends that stuff, I'll send it to the subcommittee, which will confirm who that is today. And then you can start going through and saying, you know what, this section works, we just gotta, take this sentence out, add this sentence, this one doesn't. And again, this is ultimately going to be a recommendation to town council, and saying, this is what the committee has worked on and recommends. And, we met with Teleview during that time, and, we think that either we go with them, or we stay on our own, or we do a hybrid approach, whatever it is, and we think the library will be the best, but the support of the school and the township, and just put all that together, and then the council will review and say,
This is one
most
of those-
likely yes, after all that work.
Well, I'm hoping we can get some feedback from council prior to that. I mean, Victoria, I know that you are a liaison there, so hopefully you can let us know if we're going off the rails at any one point.
Yeah, so far, it really seems like we're going in the right direction. We don't have really enough to have gone wrong yet.
That's
But-
positive.
No, but I like kind of the plan we have going forward to kind of create our policies. Meeting with Teleview is really important to get an idea if that's what direction we want to go in. We especially want to find out how much that's going to cost the township, because that's going to be a major concern. And I think council probably would agree with Mr. Boyle. We don't just want a bulletin board. We want some kind of content, so it's important that we figure out where that's coming from before we go live with this. So, just keep going in this direction,
And then the biggest concerns that always come up are that volunteer base, and somebody being in charge of that. Because again, they come and go, you gotta make sure, what happens when they decide that, okay, it's time for somebody else to do it. So somebody's got to respond. That's always been one of the major hang-ups over the years of councils. It's been a very big concern. So, and I'm sure once this is presented to the public will come up with some good questions and feedback and say, hey, have you guys thought about this or that? We'll get that kind of feedback as well.
Tom, going back to Teleview and budgeting, if there's no money in the budget for this year to bring them in, does that potentially impact the rollout date, or do we kind of just go without them? Right?
No money has been planned for in the budget. It doesn't mean that
We
if
can't
council
get it.
decides that this is the important thing to do, that I
Mhm.
can't move things around and change priorities.
Okay.
That's what I do as a finance officer. So,
He's not gonna say anything more than that on camera.
exactly, exactly. John can tell you, I can do some pretty amazing things when need be. But that means something else suffers out, and somebody else doesn't get something else. But first thing we have to do is get the meetings and find out what's going to cost. If they tell me it's $50,000, well, I'm not coming out with that, I can tell you that. But
Hey, Tom, the other thing I would suggest is reaching out to like MTC and More Arts, because obviously they may have a vested interest in helping out either financially or through volunteers. I know that they both have productions in town, and quite frankly, that could be something that could be televised as well.
What were those organizations?
MTC, Morristown Theater Company, and
More art.
More Arts.
And, what's the music place up on
Perkins.
Oh, Perkins, forgot about Perkins too, yeah.
Did you just volunteer? Pete,
Morristown
as,
School of Music.
to speak to me?
Isn't that, yeah, but my wife's on one board, so
Oh, so you're
yeah,
you're
I'll talk to them.
The only thing with them, then, we have to be careful how it's presented so it doesn't look like the advertising.
We-
Well,
But they're allowed to sponsor.
They're nonprofits
right,
by
yeah.
And
definition.
they're providing content, which we need.
yeah,
Yeah.
and we could just say this program sponsored by More Arts.
Well, not only that, if they're
MTC.
providing the volunteer manpower is the important part.
Right.
If they're a base that says we're there for that part of it.
That's what I was thinking of Perkins, because they've got, I'm sure they've got photography classes there, so it's gonna be one small step for them to start doing,
Well, but that's the thing, before we start reaching out to these groups, should we have some idea of what we would expect from them? Meaning, we expect produced content that's edited, or, you know, like, I think it might be helpful, again, to at least make some strides towards the policy before we start
absolutely.
approaching and saying.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Because I think if you ask them generally in a vague way, you know, would you guys like to throw some content on the new Morristown channel? I think a lot of them might say, yeah, okay, and then the next quick question is, now, what do you need from us? Like, what's it gonna look like?
Well, I was thinking, I thought he was going a different way, saying that you guys willing to be a volunteer.
Yeah,
base.
that's where I was going, volunteers.
Content
Oh,
will come,
really?
yes, that's
Yeah,
where I thought it was
volunteer.
You
going.
want them to do editing?
Well, think
production?
about it. So the folks that do MTC and More Arts, they've got audio-visual folks that help produce the play, right? They got some technical folks that could actually help us out.
That's what I
Yeah.
thought. So it doesn't hurt to line them up.
Yeah.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
From that standpoint.
And then we play the play, we show.
Well, you know what, that you have to leave up to them, because they buy the rights to the play, and those rights may not include them televising it,
Well, they
so.
probably don't want that anyway,
Yeah.
because they want people to buy the tickets to come sit in the seats. If
Right.
they're gonna sit
Right,
down-
they probably want to delay.
But
It runs, you know.
But Tom, what they may
So
wanna
maybe
do
6 months later,
is,
they don't care.
they may wanna develop a trailer to put on there.
Like when they're walking up and down during the parade, singing the songs,
Yeah.
Morristown Day, come see our next show sort
Yeah.
of stuff.
Yeah,
But,
Well, let's get the free labor first.
yeah, I'm thinking more of the technical folks that are associated with those, you know, outfits, right?
it absolutely starts, as you said, though, with the manual, because ultimately that the policies and procedures will tell us the best way that is being used to fill 168 hours a week with content. We break that down with, you know, giving X amount to the schools and X amount to, you know, Y amount to the town council, and, you know.
But this can happen at the same time,
Absolutely.
because we're not saying they're only gonna get X amount of percent if they do, no, we're expecting they're gonna help the entire town base as a volunteer.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, and does the library have anybody volunteer, they're gonna be using paid staff, that will all come in part of the procedures. You know, who from each agency is the designated head, and are they gonna provide any, you know, part-time paid personnel? Are they gonna be able to put volunteers? And then this is the other side, the community volunteer base. So I think it's great. Yeah. So-
Yeah, like the author series at the library, if you
There
were
you
able.
go.
You were.
Story times.
You know, I could talk to the breakfast club, he could talk to the lunch club. Not the lunch club anymore? Okay, never mind. But we could talk to the different civic agencies as well, they may be able
I thought the Breakfast Club was more fun, but Glenn's already there. So.
So that's the first step.
All right, so who's gonna be on the policy/governance subcommittee?
Bruce and
Thank you,
Dave, because
Pete.
they're not here.
Pete is chairing the subcommittee.
I'll volunteer, governance falls in my,
Thank you, Joyce.
my thing.
Can we have somebody who's a staff member on there too? Because Tom, it seems like you guys have a really good idea of what can and cannot, what is and is not appropriate based on township rules and regs, or should this be just a committee subcommittee?
It could start with a committee subcommittee, I'll certainly volunteer to be there. You know, but if they want to, there's certain obvious things that you can push through, but if you have any questions, certainly reach out to me.
We could start with a draft.
Right, exactly. And then, you know, if there's, you would certainly, you know, use the what do you call it, the draft version that, you know, Tom, is this allowed, you know, type thing, and if you're not sure about something, and we can look at it, because I probably won't have all those answers myself, I may even have to reach out to the attorney with some of those. So that would be great if the committee could do that, and then say, this is a question for the township / attorney, or whatever, you know, something like that. So that'd be great. But yes, I'll be involved.
Do you have policies for the website? Because that would also be a good base, like in terms of
Our own web work, we're our own web
Oh,
authors,
gotcha.
so, I mean, we have internal policies, but we don't allow public content on our side anyway.
Just a person I'd be willing to help, would it make sense, I forget what Bruce and Dave do, would either of them make logical sense to be involved in?
So Dave works for Comcast, he's on the infrastructure side.
Okay.
Well, I wouldn't make it more than 3, because then.
And that's why, I mean, I'm willing to help,
Yeah,
make it
yeah.
3, but I don't wanna,
Well, I don't think Dave would probably be a good candidate, because Comcast is who we have the agreement with, probably not a good, I mean, I know he's not very involved in
I
that part,
understand,
but.
what about Bruce? He's not here, but he, well, you
Well,
can
if you
pencil
want
me
it,
down
yeah.
and,
You're trying to volunteer.
if Bruce is real excited about it,
Okay.
I'll
Okay.
Can we see your policies too, this internal policy for your website, because we may want to leverage off that,
We
or
don't really have anything written.
nothing written?
No.
Because it would be nice to ensure that we're in
This-
sync,
This committee years ago was supposed to come up with that.
and maybe you want to leverage off ours. Because it would be a good idea to make sure we're in sync,
Yeah.
we're coordinated.
I mean, when I did my research, Tom, I found 3 or 4 townships that had a bunch of stuff from, like I said, political, advertising, what you can and can't do, content, hours of operation.
Well, that's
you know,
great.
It's,
Yes,
we
the
don't even
libraries
have
are
to
the
build
last
it, you
bastion
just
of
have
free
to take.
speech.
And that's the best way to do it. I'll take what Fred sends me, and I'll forward it off to you guys, and you
Everything
guys
goes,
just
you
know.
make the best of everything, you know?
We represent all points of view.
Yeah, I will share that with everybody.
And we'll try to cut it down from 40 pages there to maybe 20 or something like that.
Is there ever an issue that you're filming the football game and you pan the crowd and some kids are picked up in the video and it goes onto the TV and the parents have an
Well,
issue?
there are COPA, because, you know, we had to deal with this with soccer and sports. So the issue is, you can't show a child and his name at the same time without prior approval of the parent.
Okay, so if we played like the football game, you wouldn't be saying who's number 12 and you wouldn't pan the crowd and say, oh, there's John Smith.
If it's a minor child
Yeah.
and you use the name and the child's face, you have to get the parental
Right.
permission. Now, we have a,
And that's part
we
of
have
the
a
editing.
pre-printed waiver that we use whenever we're doing an event at the library. And we know we're gonna be taking pictures, and we know we're gonna wanna put those pictures up in the web or at the newspaper. We get a waiver signed by the parents. If they don't wanna sign the waiver, we don't use that photograph.
And that may be a legal question, like in our policies, to find out, is it just enough, for instance, you know, we have to put a posting that, you know, we videotape in the building.
Right.
Is a posting like that on the wall of a public place that we're doing sufficient, or do we need a signed waiver by each one? That may be something to bounce to our attorney.
Yeah,
We
or
have
you
a
just put a
sign
sign on the
for
door, this is being
cameras.
videotaped.
Well, I would hope our attorney's gonna read whatever you come up with.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, at the end, yeah, yes.
Yeah.
So after it goes through our review cycle, we'll give it to the
Right.
attorney and we'll make sure that's.
Okay.
But so by the next meeting that we have, maybe not the Teleview meeting that may happen in May, but the one following, hopefully we'll have, maybe a draft
Yeah, I would think so.
in June
Yeah.
to review. That would be fantastic. Okay.
Dimitri, in the policies and procedures, at what level do we expect the final decision to be made on such things as competitive programming? Suppose there's a football game and a town council meeting, both of which want primetime airing. Who makes the decision as to which if either will preempt the other? At what level should that decision be made?
Could I make a suggestion? Because that's a great point.
Split screen.
No, what I was gonna suggest is that we come up with a program, right, like most TV channels do. So to your point, sports would be, because remember, it's not gonna be live, it's gonna be recorded. Sports would be from 3 to 4, 3 to 5. Then town council would be, you know, 7 to 8, or whatever. So Roger, realistically, if you have a program, you never have those conflicts.
And I'm sure they, and I don't know this, maybe you know, that the policies and procedures books of some of these other townships explicitly address that, because that would be the first question that I would, you know, you brought it up today, that's gonna be the first thing as soon as we go live, someone's gonna say, you know, I want my garden party on now,
And that's why you come up with the program.
My question is, at what level of administration should those decisions be made? Would it be the head of programming for the station, or the administrative,
It'll,
or would it
This
have to go to
committee, for
council?
that matter.
no, it'll have to be, it'll most likely be like the town manager or something like that.
Yeah, somebody's gotta like create a program
Right.
that says, you know, we're gonna air this content at this time, so on and so forth. I mean, I've seen it in my research, Tom, and I think we talked about this. One town even had after-hours programming, believe it or not. Like after 10, the content was like more adult-oriented.
Wow.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah.
But if you do it by time slice, okay, but then there's weekends, which are different from weekdays,
Yeah, so you'd have a weekend program.
and there are always things like dynamic events. For example, Joe brought up, if the mayor has an announcement to make, maybe you want to preempt some sports program for the mayor's announcement.
Right.
We'll have to put
Yeah.
that in the policy.
That's right.
There's got to be some level
Mhm.
established for the decision to be made and not escalated to the next meeting.
Right, no, I think that's a good point. And to Tom's point, it may just be the town manager, right? You just may.
I think ultimately, there's gonna be
Yeah.
one person who's always chosen to make these kind of calls,
Mhm.
and it should be the town
it stops
manager.
there.
Right. But that's a great question, because if you have a program ahead of time, you can know what to expect.
Yeah, what'd you say, John's gonna be the person?
No, it says
No,
Scott's not
see,
here, we
Scott's not
volunteer
here.
him.
It's a good way to get everybody to come to a meeting.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other thoughts on the cable channel
No?
for the context of this meeting?
Would it be appropriate to ask Joe to write a letter of intent?
Well, I think perhaps, but first, I think Joe has some things he needs to do within his own committee and his
Yeah.
own board. The board.
Okay.
Yeah.
He
You
gets
know, my
But
board-
beyond, beyond this discussion, something in writing might be useful.
Yeah, I agree. From my point of view, like I said, I'm all in. I will take it to the board next Wednesday.
Okay.
And tell them what we intend to do and, you know, ask for discussion on their part. And we'll go from there. I don't
If-
see any,
If you need me at that meeting, let me know.
okay, but I do not see any kind of reason for them to not wanna go forward with this.
I think it's a great fit.
I
Great
do too.
fit
I
for
think
where
it's
the
a great
library's
thing.
trying to go.
I think it's a great thing for the whole town.
It is.
Hey, Tom, one more suggestion along with the policies and procedures, things like that. Maybe we should come up with like a capital budget, right? I know you guys have cameras, you know, in the town hall, but,
Mhm.
you know, if you want to take it to the next level, you may need portable cameras to take to an event. Or maybe those things are donated. We look for donations.
Yeah,
there might
I'm
be
I'm not
more
worried as much on
partnerships.
capital, I mean, budget, I mean, cameras, how expensive for a couple cameras?
Well, really good HD cameras, like $1,000.
Yeah, but how many of them are you running around with?
I don't know. We have to figure that out.
Well, the township's not providing the bulk of the
$10,000.
content, it's gonna be all these other agencies, they're gonna be expected to provide their own film.
I mean, we could certainly, you know, buy one or two and have them rented out for, you know, for, not rented, not for fee, but some responsible party who's on the hook for it.
Gotta have a library card to check out a camera.
No, but like, if,
The
you
library
know,
runs it, you can put in all
if
the.
somebody wants to go Autumn,
They take
Morristown,
my credit
and
card for the museum
we know
tickets.
someone from the
There you go.
business association is gonna be up there,
For the camera.
they can sign it out, and they can film it with our account. We could certainly look at something like
Yeah,
that.
and then obviously editing software and stuff like that. I mean, one copy's probably not gonna do. If you have multiple editors, you'll need.
I'm never
multiple
scared of
copies.
the capital cost, I'm
Okay.
always scared of the operating costs that usually
That's what
come with
kills
it,
it.
that's the part that.
That's what kills it.
Exactly.
That
Capital
will
part's
cost
easy,
you
that's
one
one
time
time,
out.
exactly.
Okay.
Anything more for me?
No, thank you very much.
Excuse
John.
myself. And
I'll take it to the board next Wednesday.
Thank you very
You're
much.
welcome.
Thanks, Jack.
Thank you for your
But
enthusiasm and support. So before we wrap this issue up, I'm gonna open up to public comment. We have a couple gentlemen here that seem very familiar with videotaping and putting things online. So just open it up to you. Any thoughts or comments to kind of what we're planning to do here?
Not off the top. I think it's a great idea to get it out to the public. I guess, my concerns come into play with the editing, but at the same time, I do respect when it comes to the.
If we're gonna open up public, you gotta do the normal thing, the.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
Name and address.
Jack, I'm sorry. Jack Lance, 302 East Main Street, Morristown, New Jersey.
Hey, Jack, real quick,
Yes.
could you give us a little background? Is Open Doors Morristown a organization?
Basically, myself, as a concerned resident, I started attending council meetings in September. I found that there was a lot of issues with understanding what was going on in town, not being familiar with how council meetings run. I was also concerned that there was minutes that were missing that I couldn't find, that I would go back. Maybe I heard something wrong and I wanted to recap on it, and the minutes weren't there accessible, which I'm not pointing any fingers at anybody, but it was concerning to me while I was trying to find out how our town operates, what we do. So that's when I, along with a few other residents, started talking about videotaping council meetings. By law, we were allowed to, so we figured, all right, let's bring a camera, let's start doing it. We actually started with the mini iPad, but it wasn't successful because the sound's terrible, the visual's not good, so that's when we invested some money into a camera. Better quality, recording, sound, audio, visual, and we brought that into the meetings. And then we created basically a Facebook page called Open Doors Morristown, New Jersey. And what better to call it than Open Doors, because that's what we were trying to do, is just present actually what was going on in the meetings firsthand for the public to view. And the Facebook page, we got a lot of likes very quickly. We're up to 830 some likes. And we literally posted the page on March 7th. So we're talking a little over a month. Just boomed. And our intentions are to record the meetings for public view. We don't edit any of our meetings. What we get is what we put up.
So it's gavel to gavel, you don't stop?
Yeah, well, no, there's now our camera only take increments of 25 minutes videos. So we do stop it momentarily to pick up another clip and record.
Right.
And then, Dan here could explain that what we do is we take the videos and we put it into one video altogether.
Right.
So it is minute to minute,
Okay.
except up to that point when it reaches a 25-minute max. So there may be, several seconds missing in between.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Which
is something that we're looking into to also correct, because we would like it continuous.
I could help you out with that.
Yeah, I'd love you to.
So Jack, you were gonna give us your thoughts on what we're planning on doing here.
I mean, I think it's a great idea. My only concern, not only concern, I mean, I have many concerns, but I think that's what's great. I think we bring it to the table. That's why I was excited to come to this meeting, because we're better to find out information about recording council meetings, or where we're going to put them, or live feed or not feeds, is the editing part. And I understand too that, I guess from a township point of view, there has to be some sort of delay or editing. I don't know that legal.
Well, I don't think there has to be,
It doesn't
but
have to be, you can do it live.
we'll go back to the point of, you're at a football game, it gets very contentious, you got people laying the F-bomb all over the place. That's something that you don't want to show on public TV, because there's kids watching.
Not just that, we have to
Yeah.
trust the source. Somebody turns a tape into us, and they want to be a funny person, and they slide something in the middle.
Yeah.
We gotta be, that's why someone has to watch it to make sure.
I agree.
Or they tape over something and don't realize at the end of their tape was
Yeah.
the family vacation.
Right.
No, I agree with that. I mean, definitely I had children in town, and I don't want them turning on the channel to listen to nonsense. There's enough of that with the
Right.
regular channels that you can pick up on. So from that point of, when it comes to the children, yes, I think there has to be discrepancy of what we put on there. I guess more or less it would be the council meetings, the school board meetings that wouldn't be edited.
Yeah, we're not looking to edit that. When we say
Yeah.
someone for editing, that if we find in the middle of a game some
So it would be more or
inappropriate,
less.
exactly,
The
or,
word is censoring more than editing.
Yeah.
right,
Okay, we're looking to
right.
censor anything objectionable
Or,
as opposed to content.
or what editing would be, if someone's doing Autumn at Morristown, you're not gonna show the entire day, someone's probably gonna get it down to 1
Yeah.
hour.
Right.
Yeah.
And they're gonna pick the highlights. That's
Yeah.
the editing we're talking
Yeah.
about.
Which is good too, because people want to see what the fun.
Right.
And you want to keep their attention, you don't want to show something
Exactly.
for 3 hours and then.
Nobody
they're-
watches a live
But-
game
but-
for 3 hours.
But
Yeah.
that's where the labor, when I keep saying labor, that's what I'm talking about, the labor intensive is, someone
Yeah.
has to watch, if you're gonna do labor, Autumn at Morristown, someone's gotta watch the entire tape and then go through and decide what they wanna show.
And that's a lot.
It is.
I mean, that's a lot of time. I mean,
It's a-
we spend a tremendous amount of hours just uploading our videos and getting them set
Yeah.
to the sites.
And that's always been our concern, and what is really why we haven't had ownership up to this point, why the school has been concerned and about taking this over,
Right.
and same thing, why, none of us really taking it over at this point.
And that's something that we actually are looking into as well with the schools. Morristown High School, my daughter is a sophomore, and I started pulling her to get involved. And they actually have the hours they have to
It's a community service.
community service hours. So some children, some of the kids are tech savvy, really tech savvy. So we're trying to encourage them to come assist us and see if we can speak to the schools to get some kind of write-off for their community service time.
Yeah. That would be-
I think they need 120 hours, I believe.
Yeah, minimum.
So I mean, right there, you could have a tremendous amount of hours.
Interns and
Volunteer
stuff.
based, yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
volunteer.
Yeah, but to your point, I tape all the school musicals, so musicals 2.5 hours. So not only watching it, add another hour to hour and a half of editing, you're in 4 hours to edit it.
Easy.
2 hour,
Easy.
yeah.
Right.
And with that, you filled, what, 2 hours of, maybe 2 hours of airtime?
2 hours. Yeah,
You've got 166 more hours to fill in the week.
Yeah. Yep.
So anyway, Jack, we appreciate your comment about transparency and editing versus censorship, and I think you're hearing from all of us, there's no intent to have any kind of censorship. It's just really the policy and the governance needs to speak to that. There's certain types of content that for a variety of reasons needs to be edited as you would expect at any television broadcast, and other things, which is more public service, council broadcasts, school board meeting broadcasts, those, there's no censorship
For
appropriate.
transparency purposes.
It's transparency and
Right.
communication.
No, and I respect and I understand the others that need to be.
Except I've been on the school board meeting, you've got to have the camera off for parts of their session.
That's the same
Yeah,
with the council.
School board's got
whenever
a
we do
lot of
executive session.
confidentiality.
Yeah,
Right.
and they take
Stuff.
that to close,
Yeah.
yeah,
Right.
they take that to
They
close
did it at the
session.
last meeting. They closed up for 30 minutes.
I'm
Yeah.
thinking with our school board, there's a lot of close the door.
Our intentions are all good. And
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Coming to this meeting, we would love to give our support and any time that we can give to assist your.
That's what I'm thinking, I'm thinking
Well,
we got a couple
that's-
people that.
Well, council and the volunteer list.
This is what we're doing. This is what we're doing. So we would have
Just
no
sign right here?
problem. Yeah, just sign right up. We gotta check it.
Here comes our director and producer volunteer.
No, I would love to help in any way I can. And I know Dan would and the rest of our volunteers. That's one thing that Open Doors, I want it to remain as. I want Open Doors to be community effort where people have input, people can come and view videos, but it's so difficult, and I hear that tonight, that somebody has to have control of it. Because you don't want it to get out of control and allow anybody just a free-for-all to slip in videos or something that's really not, I don't want to say appropriate, but so much as that. This is what it's about, is communication.
Yeah.
And that's why it's been a lot of man hours for us, because what we are presenting is a positive, and that's it's a hard thing to, I don't want to say it's hard to control, but it just takes a lot of time, consumes a lot of time. So if we can donate time, equipment, you know, as we're going through, equipment can be expensive. It can be, and there's really no maintenance to it, but it's also delicate at some point. So anything we could do, we're here to help.
Okay.
Thanks.
Appreciate that.
All right, thank you, Jack.
And any contact information I can give you. after
Yeah,
the
please,
meeting.
we'll sync up afterwards.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for
Thank you.
welcoming
Thanks.
us. too.
Thank you.
Next thing, Mr. Chairman, was a technology update.
Yep, so town hall tech update, I assume, John?
Yeah, well, before we do that, I just want to discuss something else that we just recently did here. Starting April 1st, we, now the taxpayers and water and sewer utility billing payers can now review their accounts online. You can make payments online via e-check. E-check will cost you $1.05 per transaction. If you use a Visa debit or most other credit cards, it costs you 2.95%. So
The Visa debit was cheaper.
the Visa debit is
Yeah,
cheap as well. I'm sorry.
Visa debit was I think $3.95 per transaction.
transaction, okay.
But then the other debit cards, like a MasterCard debit card or anything like that.
2.95%, which can be pretty hefty. if you
Yeah.
talk about
This
it.
is sewer and water you can pay online?
And taxes.
And
Taxes,
taxes,
water,
that's the
and
big
sewer. But those fees are borne by the consumer, obviously, so there are convenience fee on top of,
You're passing the credit card processing fee to the
exactly.
customer.
Because we're not like a normal business that can absorb that and put it onto the cost of goods.
Mhm.
We always don't
Right.
have that, you know,
Mhm.
we just pass that on if you want that convenience.
We'll be taxing you for it
you
anyway.
pay for that.
Yeah.
Well, but, yeah, but the difference is that would fall into our budget, we'd have to
Right,
budget
that's
for
what I
it.
mean, we had,
But it's an
it's all
immediate-
getting paid by the taxpayer anyway,
Yes.
so we might as well pass it on at the time of the transaction.
And especially since there's a large part that prefer to come in person. Senior population likes to stop by, especially when we're at the new town hall, or the old new place. People like to stop by, then they like to go get pizza or something downtown. But regardless, we've offered that convenience now. The other thing that can happen is now you get your water and sewer bill, that little card. A lot of people complain that they lose that over the years. You can actually go and you can sign up to receive your water and sewer utility bill via email. If you do that, then you will not get the postcard. You cannot do that for your tax bill, because that's a whole different process, but your water and sewer bills can be emailed to you. So that's something that we just rolled out and we just started.
There's no charge for that, right?
There's no charge for that. And you can go and view your accounts and everything to see what the balances are.
How is this being communicated?
It was on the website, and was there also, I think it was
An email blast.
it was an email blast from the
Was sent out
website.
too,
If
but
you
it was
subscribe to the
just
website,
subscribe.
we got that.
Anything in the sun?
No.
Scheduled to be in the sun?
That's a possibility. That's actually between the tax collector and the clerk's office. So I was only involved, in the technology part of that. So I mean, like putting it on the website and things like that.
But that's a good point, we can get something out on that.
Yeah, the sun effects, that'd be a good article to have, because I believe I'm subscribed to the email on the website, but that's a whole separate issue, but I didn't get anything.
Yeah, I don't remember seeing it. I get all kinds of notifications.
But it's a good thing, if you go to the website on the front page, it'll tell you how to go about doing that. So just want to report that, and I'll turn over the
Good, Tom, thank you.
town hall update part to John.
Yeah, basically the town hall is what I would focus on. As of today, one of the things we implemented over the last few weeks is we've eliminated all of our faxes as of tomorrow. All of our fax machines, we're going fax over IP. That'll increase productivity. It'll decrease our costs also in the long run. Obviously, with the brother fax machines that we have and things like that, I think they're $200 a pop. And they get so much use that they're
The drums are expensive.
yeah, the drums are expensive. They break down once every probably 1.5 years. We have to replace them, so we're saving on toner, and obviously that cost gets redistributed into printer costs and things like that. The cost of toner for printer, but it's definitely going to save us a lot of money. And the fax server itself, the initial capital outlay should pay for itself within about 2 years, including, you know, the elimination of all the fax machines and the elimination of any analog lines that we had to do that. So that was one of the things that we completed, and most of the work has been done on the new facility. As of this week, all of the AV equipment is being installed. So it's being finalized, it's being wrapped up. All of the cameras were installed, including the broadcast video cameras that we have. We have 3 robotic Panasonic broadcast video cameras in the council chambers. And in the
conference room behind that also.
oh yeah, there's no like cameras in there.
I thought there was an overhead, that's projection.
That's projection, yeah. We have a number of meeting rooms that have Panasonic projectors in them, and they're all hooked into some of the pull-down screen and 4 speakers, 4 JBL speakers in the ceiling. With the exception of the council chamber. The council chamber is top of the line. There's quite a few JBL speakers in the ceiling. They can be they're zoned, I think, in 8 different zones, so there won't be any feedback. Basically, any microphone that's near those speakers gets cut. You know, the speakers get cut by the system.
TVs along the walls for the presentations as well.
There's 6 50-inch color televisions screens in the audience view,
3 on each side.
Yeah, and 2 on each side for council members to view presentations. But we were a while ago. We were looking at a system. I can't remember off the top of my head who makes the system. It might have been eGov or something like that. But essentially, the system allows you to project different information about the council meetings onto these screens. So for now, the projected information will be like the council agenda, things like that for the evening. Plus, if anybody comes and makes a presentation, any presentation that they make will be projected onto a large screen behind council, but they'll also be projected into the 50-inch screen so that anybody that has vision impairment or anything can actually look and see. And it's well
covered for
covered.
planning and zoning boards as well.
Exactly.
Want to bring their plans in for presentations to the public. And the interest of
How about
parties.
cable TV? Do they get cable in those?
They don't yet, but actually one of the functions will
You're
be
thinking
once.
Super Bowl party, aren't you?
Yeah. Well, somebody already brought that up. Actually, I think the architect said that it looks a little like Chicken Pete's or something like that. But there's a functionality to it. Like I said, it's really like one of the designs for this room. One of the goals was it's kind of not just for council meetings. It's a shared meeting space. One of the goals was to use it as an emergency management center, operations center if something happens.
Smart.
So it's been built out like that, and like I said, even with this eGov program that we looked at, which we may wind up getting, you know, years down the road, this eGov program like has the ability to put different information on each screen, but also like council members would get an electronic voting, you know, machine, and anything that council members are voting on, the agenda, the actual topic that they're voting on will be projected on these screens, and then a real-time update of how council people are voting would be projected. That's the kind of stuff that you can do with these systems. So that's what it was designed for. And
Not to get off too far on a tangent, but if people are bringing stuff to these meetings,
yes,
do they have to bring it in electronic form?
Basically.
Is there a scanner going to be there or something?
No, we try to have people bring it in electronic form. We actually try to tell people to bring their own laptops whenever they can, and most people can comply with that.
Laptops will be able to tie into the system as well?
Yes, there's going to be 2 podiums in the system, and both podiums essentially have HDMI inputs and VGA inputs and also audio inputs. So anything that anybody's presenting can be projected on all of the screens, including audio. So.
And we prefer their own equipment, so
Yeah.
we don't want a thumb drive. We're not going to take someone's thumb drive and put it in our, and mess with the integrity of our own systems.
Yeah, and it
So
just takes away
it's-
liability for us if somebody breaks the laptop inadvertently or something like that. You know, and like I said, laptops have become so commonplace now where it's never been an issue at this point yet. So,
Are you capturing the meetings digitally?
we can, and that was one of the designs of this, and that's what we talked about a little earlier. there's actually supposed to be an A10 video production system that is being installed, along with a Mac Mini computer for control of the system for editing and things like that. And essentially, the A10 video production system controls the 3 cameras that we have, the 3 robotic cameras that we have, but it's expandable up to 5 cameras in case we want to do something else in other meeting rooms. The Mac Mini, we're not sure where we're going to place that yet. Obviously, with the introduction of the TV studio and editing facilities and stuff like that, we have to kind of find a place where it can be accessible to the public, you know, potentially, but yet secure, you know. So, so the system's there, and one of the things that this ATEM system does is it actually compresses the video in real time for production on the web. So, you know, technically, as the meeting's happening, we could just stream it to the website. You know, it's the capability's there. So it's a matter of what, you know.
So who manages all that?
Well, that's the problem. It's the same thing as that's why all of this was to be rolled into the television production, because, you know, with the recording of the council meetings and stuff like that, somebody still has to manage this ultimately. Like, ultimately, I'm responsible for the equipment in that sense, you know, but
Somebody's got to move the cameras.
exactly. Somebody's got to move the cameras around, and one of the things, you know, that is a possibility. You know, the clerk is always doing the notes anyway, you know, so it's a possibility that she can probably, you know, monitor what's going on in real time, but it can't distract from, you know, from her main job.
Let me suggest that you cannot add any more workload to Patty.
Oh, no, that's what I mean. Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying, you know. So.
Yeah, but could that digital recording replace her minutes?
No, unfortunately, yeah, the minutes are required, but she would be a component in that, in the sense that, like I said, she could, whatever she marks in her minutes are gonna also add up to what's being recorded, if that makes sense. So,
well, I guess my point was, could she do the recording and then the next day go back and then capture the minutes?
I don't believe so. I think that there's regulations against that, actually. I'm not sure.
I'm with you on that, but
yeah.
Why can't, if there's 3 cameras, why can't, and it's 2 podiums, why can't we have, you know, basically, at the very least, just have one on each podium and one towards the council?
That's the idea. The actual
Okay.
idea was to have one of the cameras fixed on the podium, one camera fixed on council members, and the other camera fixed on the audience members. But again, like, somebody's got to, you know,
somebody's got to be there to edit and switch cameras.
But if it's there's 2 podiums, right?
Well, there's 2 podiums potentially. Like, in most meetings, there'll only be 1 podium used.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if it's really necessary to view the audience as much.
Sure.
You know, unless you expect chairs to go flying.
Oh, no, it's what,
And we need it for liability purposes.
But if you have more than 1 camera, though, you need somebody to switch from camera 1 to 2 to 3.
Yeah,
Well, that's what I'm saying, but if we just have one on the council, and then maybe.
Yeah, it's very flexible.
Even if you're stationary, you still need somebody to switch from one camera to the other, unless you can do a split screen and show both cameras on one screen.
But you're limiting, if there's 1 podium, for instance, and you direct everybody up there, it's only happening when you're having 2 times during, like, the council agenda, when it's the presentation segment. So if the clerk's doing that, you can get ready and click, push that button,
Yeah,
get
and that's
ready.
what I was saying.
Or the citizen comment. So you're limiting to 2 areas where they don't have to move it as much as if I know in some meetings, I know in Maple Shade, for instance, the manager could do it. And he actually had the ability, he would do it during the meetings, and he would move it all around. That's getting a little, at least for when we start, maybe Patty can become a whiz, or whoever wants to do it down at Scott. Or whoever wants to do it.
The one thing I can tell you is
Victoria
that
wants to do it, I should do it.
Well, one thing I tell you, one of the screens, so as they're moving the camera, they could actually see that it's focused on something.
they could, because it's a live stream, but there could be a monitor up there also, you know.
I
For
think you
them.
need that.
Yeah, the podium itself has about, I think it's 11 inputs and outputs for audio and video, so that can definitely be done. And the camera system is really flexible because, you know, it's as flexible as we want it to be. I mean, if we want to just stream the council meeting and just stream the video of the council, we could do that easily. We could start that from day 1. And 3 independent streams can be taken at the same time, and then that's what the editing suite's for. Like, if somebody wants to volunteer after that to start getting into, you know, editing streams, you know, editing the streams together, and then eventually, you know, saying that.
You could totally be out of the filming business and just be in the editing
Yeah.
and filing business.
I mean,
You don't have
it's
to set up the
happening
camera.
Well, the
That's
issue,
the goal.
the issue is it's not,
It's a
I mean,
totally different Emmy category, though.
Yeah,
We gotta be
yeah.
aware of that.
I mean, if it was just
Yeah,
council
that's-
meetings, I'm there too, I could probably do that to take the burden off, but it's not just council meetings, it's planning board, zoning board.
Exactly.
So you have to identify somebody at every board or
Yeah.
committee who's gonna be responsible for that.
Well, ideally, this is where if the schools actually had some kind of AV club, what a great experience for some kids to be doing this kind of thing, you know. This doesn't require any capital investment, but this will teach them a lot about production.
Yeah, it's a perfect place to start with you know, video production for the TV studio, because it's all there, you know, and it's all waiting to be used, so, and it's all high quality equipment.
And with respect to everything else, the DMARC setup, John's integrating the phone system over.
Yeah, the phone system will be moved this weekend, so we've already prepared the public on the website that there's gonna be downtime for the phone system. I mean, we're closed on the weekend anyway, we're actually closed on Friday as a holiday too. So that's why I picked this weekend, there'll be minimal disruption.
No fire or police emergencies this weekend?
No, actually, the fire,
They're survivable.
yeah, they're survivable. It won't affect them, thank God. So it'll just affect like, at some point it'll affect the county calls being rerouted to the local police station, but it's only minimal. It's about a half hour.
And
But
the T1 is also being, is the T1 moved over already, John, or is that?
no, they're all being moved this.
So we'll have
weekend.
our ring back
Yeah.
together of our own.
Yeah, we're moving our
Fiber
fiber
ring.
core, our private fiber core, this weekend over to the new building. So that's a big help for us because we can eliminate all of the T1 lines that we've had, you know, connecting buildings together since the fire.
And there's been short term, when the recreation went together, John had to piece together some things for the short term that, you know, a lot of the issues will go away.
Yeah, one of the things that we're adding is we're adding the recreation building into our fiber loop. So now we're all on one, you know, essential network.
Right.
So we don't have to have delay and lag time and things like that the recreation department has been experiencing probably since February.
Plus the cameras and the access security, John's
Yeah,
working on
that-
are all being done as well.
Yeah, we're installing a Genetec physical access security system and also a video surveillance system. It's all multicast IP for the cameras and everything like that. We have a video surveillance server which has a few terabytes of of capability to it. So essentially, if something happens, you know, the police have remote access to live feeds in the building. If something's happening live, you know, they'll be able to take a look and plan to mitigate the situation. And of course, if some vandalism happens or anything like that, you know, the system archives that for weeks or months, you know, depending on the quality of the video, and that can be offloaded to the police also. And the physical access security system is an HID system that we have. We've never had. I think we did at one point, but we stopped doing this a while ago. We don't have photo IDs for employees of the township. So this system is highly expandable. We're actually going to, the week of the 19th, we'll actually be printing employee ID badges for everyone with their picture on it, their title, their information, and that card will have them gain access to different parts of the building. It'll act as a security swipe card. Too, but one of the cool things we can do with the system also is that, you know, essentially the building's locked down from a security standpoint. When visitors come in, potentially we could actually print visitor badges for them, so that we know, you know, by visitor I mean someone that's going to actually walk the entire campus, you know, or be involved in different aspects of campus. Of course, not a taxpayer or anything like that, but.
Or
just
vendor
somebody
comes
paying
in,
taxes.
you know,
Yeah, if a vendor comes in.
You know, Verizon guy, you know, giving one access.
Exactly, yeah, and the system is very expandable. It can actually be expanded with a panic control feature. A lot of the things that we deal with now obviously is terrorism, you know, situations where shooters enter the building, active shooters and things like that. The system is designed to actually have safe areas for children and stuff in the library. So like with this system, we could lock down the children's area if something like that happens. So what would happen in that case is that the children would be able to exit, but nobody can get in unless they have, you know, a swipe card and things like that. So it's a pretty sophisticated system, and we're almost complete with that.
Do you have times for who can swipe their card?
Yes.
8 to 5, Monday through Friday?
Yeah, exactly. Like for instance, all of the employees, to get access to the building, they'll have access to the building from 8 to 5, just as a template, but then that can be changed. And one of the problems that we had with the design of the building is that the library obviously is open extended hours, that town hall is, and it wasn't originally planned for that essentially. So we had free egress from the library side.
Well, it was originally planned, it just didn't
Well,
make it into the plans.
Exactly, it didn't make it into the plan. So we had free egress from the library from the hours of 4:30 till 9, into the town hall building. So we mitigated that by installing, physical access security on the egress doors. But there's a lot of technical.
Panic overrides.
Yeah, but there's panic, and one of the doors there had to be a panic override essentially. So there was a lot of questions about, well, what happens if there's a gas leak in the building or something like that. A lot of the egress doors are physically secured, and building code says that essentially these systems have to be tied into the fire alarm system. So if somebody pulls the fire alarm, it deactivates the physical security in the structure. So
Sounds great. Sounds like you've thought of everything.
yeah, it's pretty extensive, and the thing that I like about the system is that we started out small, which is exactly what we needed to do to get a handle on everything, but it's infinitely expandable with this system. We're originally going to look at going into a Cisco system because we use Cisco for everything that we have, but the Cisco system was more expensive, and it also had limitations that this Genetec system did not. So.
The other things is our existing township computers and servers were at their end of life. Most of them were purchased with insurance money at the time when we had the fire. They were purchased end of 2007, early 2008. They're at end of life. Rather than having them, coordinating with the move, trying to move them over and stuff, we purchased new ones that John is working on migrating everything, getting it set up. So the employees go over, workstations will already be set up. With respect to the servers, John was able to cut down a lot of server numbers and use and virtualize. But also the existing computers, what we're going to do is John's going to wipe them here, and then they're going to become part of the training room for the library. So now if we're going to bring in people to teach like Excel, intermediate Excel or classes or whatever, the workstations will be there for.
And we were running on Windows XP. We're still running on Windows XP right now. Yeah, exactly. So, but we planned for that. We knew that was going to happen. We missed the deadline obviously by just a few weeks, but that was the goal. The goal was to just purchase all new computers and have them waiting over there. So we're moving to Windows 7, and with the addition of the IT training room, we're looking to migrate to Windows 8 point whatever next year. Because I'll have the opportunity to train people on the new interface and things like that, so that there's not.
What is the plan for the IT training room?
Well, the plan is that we can use it obviously to train employees, so that's a huge boon for me. Just to give basic refresher courses on Office and things like that, things that we use. But there's other systems that we use that are proprietary, like for instance the Edmunds finance system that we have, that we can always use updated training on and things like that. So. For those types of training sessions, we'll use the IT classroom, and like I said, with the old computers that we're going to repurpose. But also, I believe that the goal too was to let the public use that during the library operating hours, so that if someone wants to volunteer to give seniors a class on Windows 8 or something like that, or Office, they're free to do so. They can basically for free they can sign up the room. For as long as they need.
How many PCs are in that?
There will be, I think that we'll start out with 20. We have 29 PCs, but they're old, obviously, so we're going to hold back like about probably 9 of those.
You have an IT training room with 20 PCs.
Yes, yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Is this going to be one of the rooms that is rented out, similar to the meeting room at the library? So
exactly.
You can have external parties.
Well, that was the goal.
Right.
So yeah, I can't speak to the policy, but the goal was to have be able to just give that free basically if somebody signs up and they want to give a class. Obviously, there'll be strict.
Well, yeah, still working on that.
Yeah, there'll be it'll. Like I said, the library, as far as I know, controls that part of it. Is that correct? Like.
Well, we control those. Well, it's together.
Yeah, so
So you're gonna rent that out, those machines are connected to your network?
No, they're separate.
Oh, they're
But yeah, they
standalone.
won't be, and like I said, I don't believe they'll be rented out, you know, from what I heard, from what I know, it's gonna be, you know.
It would be like,
for the public
just like the
use.
library runs programs now, there would just be a program that we're running, you know, as part of it.
But not connected to the,
Correct, not
No,
connected.
no, no.
And it's not like the library, the existing library stations they have now for the public use. It's not those.
No, yeah.
Who manages the content on the stations the public can come in and use? Meaning, do we block sites?
The library
we don't
does,
go into?
and they do not block content. Yeah.
they don't use like WebSense or anything?
They
like
don't,
that?
no, they're not required to by law, and they do not. There is a
They had
requirement by,
complaints about it years ago, so
Exactly,
they choose
there-
not to now.
there's a requirement by law under COPA, but it's only for entities that are accepting federal grants, which the library is not. So basically what happens is under COPA, if you're accepting a federal grant for the library or for the township, basically you're required to monitor internet content for children, you know, so you're required to monitor certain sites and things like that and block them. But if you're not accepting any federal grants, then there's no requirement for that.
So the library didn't do any blocking at all?
They do not.
But I think we want to block some adult content too.
But that's
personally,
a policy set by the library.
Exactly, that's a policy set by the library. My opinion would be we have content filters on our network, and we actually use OpenDNS. That's what we, it's free, you know, and it works very well. It blocks 99% of any kind of like gambling sites, pornography sites, things like that. And it's been very effective for us. Yeah, if it were up to me, if I were setting policy, I would definitely be setting policy that we would be blocking that kind of content. But you know, there's two schools of thought, especially in the library services area. You know, and library services, most library services staff and department heads are very strict about wanting open content for everybody. You know, and that's kind of what overrides everything.
They'd be worried about their liability a little bit too.
I would agree. You know,
Do you
but
actually have a policy, you know, a written policy?
they have a written policy as far as the use of computers, but and I believe that they do have a written policy that states that if someone enters a site that the library finds objectionable, that they have the option of, you know, removing that person from the premises.
I've never seen somebody patrolling what anybody's looking at.
Exactly, and we have a public network for the library. It's completely separated and isolated from our network. So, like I said, I really don't have any control over that. But.
Okay. Anything else? I think that pretty much covers it. I think that stuff.
Yeah, I think that was.
That's great.
Yeah, can't wait to see it.
Yeah, I'm excited. It's coming along,
That's
and
good.
it's almost complete now. So it's pretty cool.
Sure, are you excited about all that, all those cameras and
Yeah,
high tech?
of course.
Well, now it looks like Open Doors Morristown has already prepared the council for the videotaping process.
Oh, yeah.
It's just the next evolution.
Make sure we do our makeup and brush our hair.
Is there, Tom's your budget for makeup artists, for the council and committee meetings?
Depends on how important it becomes.
You can re-swizzle it.
We buy the cheap stuff. We gotta cut somewhere.
Actually, in terms of our meeting, quite selfishly, are we gonna be able to meet in those rooms, or is that,
Yeah.
that's where we're gonna start meeting, moving over there?
We'll pick one of them, yeah.
Yeah, we used to hold the meetings in the donut room. So, and that like the donut room has an audio system. It's got a video projection system, and it's got the big donut table.
Yeah, it'll be one of two places they'll choose. It'll either be the meeting room on the second floor or what the circular room there, this conference room that we nicknamed the donut room.
Let's see why. What about school board? Are they gonna be meeting here, or are they still gonna meet in their school?
Well, they would still meet at their own. Yeah, they have their own setup. They actually meet at William Allen Middle School.
Right, well, so did council for a long time. So
Well,
now
that's
you
because we had
can
nothing. We didn't have anywhere to go.
Now you can reciprocate, now you
That was
have
the
much better
difference.
facilities than they're gonna have, and the audio is always terrible at that
Yeah.
Rams auditorium, so I'm just wondering if they have any interest in coming over. Oh, well, shared services.
Dimitri, the June 18th meeting is going to be where?
The donut room, maybe, or the other room that Tom mentioned.
How about the cafe in the library? I heard they're having a cafe in the library.
Yes.
You want to buy a coffee and a tea, I guess.
Yeah, but it will be in the new town hall building.
Can we actually move that meeting up a week earlier? Because then I could attend it.
Let's see.
June 18th to June 11th.
Yeah, I confirm, I think that will work better for me.
I'll be out of town, but don't let that.
All right, well then, that's okay, because John will be there.
There may be other people as well.
I can do either day,
What date?
the 11th or the 18th. Troy, are you okay with either day? Joyce?
Want to send out an
Let me
email
check my
to
busy
find out
calendar.
where we
Oh,
get the
great.
most people? 'Cause we're gonna need a quorum.
Yeah, we'll send out an email about
Say-
June 11th or 18th.
Right,
and
see which
see
one
Okay.
works.
the next meeting.
Yeah.
You have to have one topic to be efficient.
All right, so let's roll into the next common topic of discussion at the TNT meeting, and that's the website. I guess here's what I want to establish today, is just at least come out of this meeting with a plan on how we're going to take some steps this year. I don't think we're going to necessarily need to accomplish redesigning anything at this meeting, but let's at least, as an agenda item for 2014, figure out where are we going to end up the year vis-a-vis the website. So I think the one thing, just to level set everybody, since last we met, we knew that with QRadar, our website vendor, QSend, excuse me, I don't know where I got QRadar. We had two specific fees that we were paying them annually. One is a website hosting fee, which was the more reasonable of the two fees. The second was a maintenance fee to keep up with upgrades that we never seemed to quite get.
Yeah, we actually, we looked into that, and we are required to have both, we are required to pay both fees. Yeah, basically, what we were told was that
Required by who?
what's that?
Required by who?
Oh, QSend, actually the owner of QSend. Basically, they're inseparable because he says that the content management system that we license to update the website gets regular updates, and without that update subscription,
We couldn't make updates.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, it basically said that, you can take away the update subscription, but if we move on to a new version, you're not gonna be able to make updates to your website. I was like, oh, okay. So,
I didn't see that anywhere in the proposal or the contract.
oh, it wasn't in the contract in the sense that it said that it was required. I agree with you, because that's what the problem that I had with it was, we looked over the contract, and it wasn't specified anywhere that, that this fee was required essentially. But then when we called, that's the answer that we received. So.
I would not take that answer.
I don't.
Absolutely not. I mean, we as a township licensed the content management system version 2. Whatever. If they update it, they should be required to support us on that old version. It should not preclude us from being able to use the system altogether.
I would agree.
I would involve the solicitor in that, because that's what, $5,000?
I believe it's I don't know. Yeah, I think it was
$4,000 for which we get literally zero value.
But John, do they run multiple versions?
Yeah, they do update the content management system. I'll give that to them. They update. They came up with an incremental version actually just a few months
No,
ago.
but to Dimitri's point, if we're at 2.0
Yes.
and they upgrade to 3.0,
Well, the problem is that
do they upgrade everybody, or do they?
they upgrade everybody. That's the thing.
Okay,
It's
so-
essentially the content
Yeah,
management system
I
is
see.
hosted.
So we're-
It's
But that shouldn't be Morristown's
They
fault.
do,
That's
that's
not a
on them.
contract, that's on
It's not
them.
on us.
Oh, I agree with you. The problem is
Yeah.
the way that I see it, unfortunately, is that we're stuck. And that's how I
Yeah.
look at it. If it were up to me, we wouldn't have used them in the first place. I want to make that clear.
Yeah.
Like I always had a problem. Like the first time that they came aboard, I had a feeling that they were like this, that the company was like this, basically. And my worst fears were confirmed. I mean, they threw something at us, and they didn't really, tell us what we were getting into.
So
But
they
now
don't
we're talking-
maintain that double version.
But now we're talking about moving forward.
Exactly.
No,
Yeah.
no, no,
So.
no, we're not just talking about moving forward. The reason I bring it up is because I know that in July, well, first of all, there was a January renewal, and then there was a July renewal.
Yeah, and I don't know which one is which.
One of which is the hosting fee, one of which is the maintenance fee. And when we
Exactly.
last had our committee meeting, we decided as a group that in order to buy us time, so we didn't feel pressure, we would renew the hosting fee, but we will not renew the maintenance fee. Because that's the one, or the.
And that's what we did, that's what
Because
John
that's the
had contacted
expensive
them.
one.
That's where we were at that point.
So I think the material question is that the one that you paid in January, or is that the one that's due in July? Because if it's due in July, I would
Still not
like to
paid.
have this
Yeah,
committee
It's the one we paid in
recommend.
January.
So
It
we
was the one we
did,
paid in January.
so we did
Yeah.
pay the maintenance fee for the next year.
Correct.
That's
So our
unfortunate.
hosting will run out, and we're still paying for maintenance.
No, we
No.
will.
Well, unfortunately.
See, the problem
they
is you
they
have
have
Line
to,
up.
they
You also
also
have
have
to
to
understand,
They don't line up.
That
Those
doesn't make
means
sense at all.
Well, the reason they don't
6
line
months
up though
apart.
was because they used to be lined up. Then the township manager at the time, there was a delay in the rolling. So that's what threw the time slot off. We're actually paying for part of it. I don't remember how it worked, but I wasn't involved in any of those decisions.
Well, yeah,
So-
that's-
but it got
that's
pushed
half the
off.
problem.
So Tom, you paid the maintenance in what, January?
I don't recall which one. We paid one in January, one in July.
Yeah.
So Dimitri, the plan should be to get off of the system by the end of December.
Can't
Because
do
you're
it
stuck
into
with,
June.
you've already paid for it.
If it was the maintenance fee paid in January.
But that's what they're saying.
He says he's not sure.
But I think from a township standpoint, at this point, because this has been something that's taken a long time, I think after we get acclimated into the new building, that the staff should look at it first, being John, myself, the township manager, and Patty, since particularly we're the biggest users of it, and more Patty than anybody, as a township clerk. And then we would make a recommendation and then have you guys look at it. Because I don't think we could keep making subcommittees and then people don't look at anything or whatever. It hasn't gone anywhere. And I don't want to keep arguing over fees. I'd rather we just, last time it moved without the staff input, and I want the staff to have the input now and we move forward with it. Because I think we can't just keep debating about it. I think we have to, that's what I choose to do. Unless council tells me differently.
What's the next due date by which we need to decide something? July?
I don't know.
No, ultimately it'll be December.
If the
Right, it's
hosting
December
fee-
at this
Yeah,
point.
it's really
Yeah.
December.
It's whenever the maintenance fee is coming up again. If the maintenance fee is coming up in July, then we want to decide by July. But if the maintenance fee is now
Maintenance fee was the
renewed,
big one, that was paid on.
Yeah, that was paid in January.
then we have
so
until.
it's-
That's when John had to have the
Hosting
conversation
fee,
with the,
The hosting fee we are planning to keep renewing until we don't have to, so whatever the lesser one, you know, if that's in July, that's not up for debate, we're gonna keep paying the hosting fee, it's the maintenance fee that's the issue.
right.
Yeah.
And you're always gonna pay 6 months more than you need to.
Yeah, of the hosting.
Well, I'd rather pay the hosting than the other.
Yeah, see, here's my feedback, Tom. I appreciate your offer to have really the largest users, which is Patty, yourselves, kind of drive this project and come to us in terms of input feedback. I think that makes sense. We would love to see that happen. Number two is, I am, from the perspective of how we've dealt with QSend, I'm personally somewhat disappointed that we paid this maintenance fee. I think that we just spent $4,000 of township money that we didn't have to spend. Just because if you talk to a CEO of a company versus looking at the letter of the contract, those are two completely
Yeah,
different
but-
things.
well,
And
we're
if you went to
also-
the solicitor, if I may finish.
Sure.
If you went to the solicitor, at least I'd like to hear what his advice would have been, whether or not we actually had any obligation to pay them this money.
Well, I think the problem is that, I respect what you're saying, but in reality, we have to worry about, is this company gonna take the website down? And that's my bottom line. Like, if this company decides that they're gonna take that website down, the public's gonna come to me, they're gonna come to my door and say, why did you let that happen? What did you do about that? And that's what I was trying to avoid, and
You've not had a good dealing with the person. We've
yeah,
not had good
he's-
dealings with the person, so we're
This
not.
company, I promise you, they would have no problems with burning bridges and just saying, you know what? If that's how you feel, we'll give you your money back and we'll take the website down immediately. And that's why,
What happens to us? How long are we down?
well, the problem is that we would be down for quite a while because they have access to our content. You know, we don't have that content, so we would have to basically start from scratch, create a new website right from the get-go. You know, pretty much. I mean, we have the content in the sense that it's distributed in PDF files and stuff like that, but that's what the driving goal here was, just to get them off our backs for a year or whatever, and then say, okay, let's get away from this company, you know?
But John, does that, so if that website goes away, all that transaction, the transactional enhancements that you made, does that all go through the website?
It all goes to the website. That
Yeah,
was what,
that's
that was
what
one of the
the-
problems
yeah.
that I had with the website. That was
I
one of the
agree
problems that I
with
had
that.
with this company. The entire content management system is hosted by the company. All of their apps are hosted by the company. This is something that we don't have control over at all. We don't have even the option of like exporting all of
So
our
I couldn't pay my
information.
taxes online if that went away?
Well, no, that's a separate issue.
Oh,
This
okay.
is just
We
a
just
content
link
issue.
to a,
Exactly, yeah, the website for that, the transactions for tax pay and stuff like that, that's all controlled by the Edmunds company, Edmunds and Associates, so it's a separate
it's a different
system.
portal.
This is
But
more,
do they go through the township website to get to that?
well,
But as a
yeah,
link.
but only as a link, yeah, like that wouldn't have been so much of an issue, it was really all the
First time you
content that
had
we
to-
put up,
you had to-
you know, over the last few years, and it was like, you know, with this company just holding all of that content, we have to just play by what the rule is for right now, and just pay it, get it done, and then come up with a migration plan to get off of them, you know, to get away from it.
John, I think you're making a very legitimate argument. I think there are other arguments. For example, I mean, I still would have liked to seek advice of counsel as to how potentially to proceed, because I think in this type of situation, I also don't feel like it's necessarily in their best interest to have a PR issue where they're really having this kind of spat with a township when their entire business is predicated on building websites for townships.
Sure.
So I know that people can take positions in a negotiation that they may or may not follow through, but let me just say from the perspective of this committee, or certainly as chair of the committee, since we made the decision as a group that we would not be pursuing the maintenance fee, I think we would have appreciated the courtesy of this being brought to our attention prior to this decision being made. And I think that generally speaking, maybe we would have all agreed to support this decision exactly as it was made, but I think that, you know, now 3 months in, something happened that we weren't aware of or we explicitly didn't think was gonna happen. So,
well,
So
but
given-
again, is that, you know, this is an advisory committee, we have an operation to run. We've been trying for years to get off of this, it hasn't happened. So that's why at this point I'm proposing that we move forward, because we can't keep relying on talking,
Right.
we have to get it done. And that's where we were actually, it was literally the day of the thing was due, and we were still trying to get out, and we made the decision.
So Tom, do you have in your mind a direction? Like, do you have a website hoster based on all the
We do
stuff
not,
we
not
looked
at this
at
time.
last year?
No.
Okay.
No, I forwarded that stuff out, I never received any feedback, so, that's why I think we're just gonna take the information just after we are into the building. And I'm still bouncing this off the township manager, that I think we should just sit down and choose it. Because the staff chose the work with the original one, the committee chose this existing one, along with the manager, the previous township manager. That's not actually, probably the previous township manager was the strongest.
Previous
Yes.
township manager chose it.
Correct.
The committee did
Yeah,
not,
That's exactly what
okay,
happened.
because the committee was advisory then,
Correct.
just like it was advisory now.
Just like it is now.
Okay, it was his decision, it was just like, this was not our decision to continue the maintenance fee. Our recommendation is secondary to what the township manager did then and did now.
Correct, with that, correct. Well, not now, township manager had nothing to do with this.
Township management.
Correct, management, correct.
well, so I think we understand where we are now. So let's at least agree to this new deadline, which it sounds like is January 2015, right? I
Yes.
don't think any of us want to be in another position, hopefully, both management and advisory committee, to be paying and get another maintenance fee to a company that behaves in the way John described.
Correct.
So,
And you've experienced yourself.
I mean, I didn't experience some of those things, I just experienced somebody that seems somewhat indifferent to us as a customer.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, okay, so in terms of timeline, once you mentioned, so give us a couple months, when realistically do you think we as a committee can start taking up, kind of where we are in terms of the requirements and how we might move forward together? Not the June meeting maybe, the one 2 months after that.
Yeah, it's.
Because, I mean, really, to get a new website up and running, you're looking at a project that's a minimum of 3 months, minimum, right? So if we need to back off of the, say, end of December timeline, we need to have a vendor selected and under contract by no later than September, I would say.
Okay.
Right, at the latest.
Did we do that, John?
Oh, yeah.
So we need to work backwards from that.
And that's what, and if we have a vendor selected even by November or December, I mean, that's our leverage there. Because then we could tell, if the company tries to pull anything, we can just say to them, you know.
Well, it can't be selected by November, December.
Yeah,
We need to be under development.
Oh, that's what I mean,
By no
yeah,
later
oh,
than
I'm thinking
September.
a worst case scenario, that's what I meant, like, you know, my worst case scenario would be that even if a vendor is selected by the end of the year, you know, then that's our leverage, you know, we could say that, well, you know, you can do whatever you want now because this is under production and it has been for, you know, a little while, and
I agree, we should goal it to have something
Yeah.
signed in September and the development underway. So maybe we should talk about the content in a general way in the August meeting?
We're gonna have a June meeting and then an August meeting.
Yeah.
By August.
Yeah, I would suggest
Yeah, we
that.
probably should be choosing the
I know you don't
content.
like subcommittees, but have like 3 people, because I gotta be honest with you, 2 meetings isn't gonna do it.
Yeah, well, the issue is we had a subcommittee set up for the website last year, and I think that's what Tom's point said, that subcommittee didn't really make much progress.
It kind of seemed like that subcommittee didn't know what subcommittee they were on.
Yeah, I agree
think
with
some of
you.
them did feel like they were on the cable subcommittee.
Right, so maybe if we had a subcommittee that was definitely sure they were the website subcommittee, they'd actually get somewhere with the website.
That's a good point.
I mean, to that end, Tom, would it be useful, I absolutely think that you and Scott and Penny should be involved in this, because you are the primary users, and John, and, you know, as you said, we kind of have the information, like that the intern pulled up last summer and compiled. Would it be useful if, you know, we could have a subcommittee in the next couple of months while you're tied up moving, identify a couple potential vendors that are kind of like, these are the ones you probably want to start with?
I thought we tried that, I never got any feedback before. I mean, I did send stuff out before.
Would it be helpful if you
even
could
before the
actually make that
subcommittee.
happen?
The person
I think we
who
need
took
to
that on was
document this
Bruce,
out.
who's not here. So
Yeah.
Bruce is the one who said he was gonna do the vendor selection and provide feedback. So without him being here, we can't really get feedback from him.
Well, it was actually, that was before that. I remember I'd sent out, and we even had the intern work, we had the Monmouth County,
Right.
and then we had the intern pull together and analyze, and I was sending that stuff out, and I never got any feedback from it. I just think at this point, it's just council's decision. You can take it back to council and let them decide. But, I mean, we're paid township employees that need to get stuff done too, so.
Right. Well, I'm saying you can't even really address this till you're in the new building, like you said, so.
Correct.
We can get our act together in the next couple of weeks and get you some suggestions that might put you in a better.
I could send all those
position.
emails out again, if I could find them, because I have a new computer, and
I remember them, and I think I filed them, I'll see what I pull. And I remember we did have online discussion about which townships we liked, at least I know my 2 cents went in the bucket. And that's sort of the last I recall of making progress. We were talking about other townships and what we
I
liked.
think we even picked a top 3 at some point. I mean, we
Yeah.
had these discussions ad nauseum. I mean,
Yeah.
I think the
I'll
vendor
go back, I don't
selection
recall
piece
anybody
is some,
being
there was the place that did Cherry Hill we liked, you know.
And I like the
Middletown was
one
the
in
Middletown,
northern Jersey, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think we can, in fairly short order, come up with which vendors we like.
if the committee wants to, well, certainly, like I said, we're gonna be tied out if that's what the committee wants to do. Joyce, it'd be great if you can find that information, because I have a new version, so it's tougher for me to find stuff, because it's indexed differently.
Okay, let me look at
On
my
my
files.
emails, I can still find it,
I'll
but
send it
I'll
to
do
you
my
first
best.
and you send it to the
I'm just not as good
committee,
at
if you
finding as I
don't
used to be.
Sure,
Okay.
happy to do that.
Recall, we have a proposal on the table from Randy Avedon
I do.
of last summer
Correct.
to be our website designer and operator.
And I brought that up as well, too, and
Is he
And
the
he
guy that
quoted
was
the price.
involved last time?
Yes.
Yeah.
Roger?
He quoted a price of, I think it was $3,000 a year.
yes. And he calls every now and then to find out.
I don't think it was a year, I think that was just for the initial development, I think it was much cheaper.
I don't recall. the
I think
details,
you're
but
right, it was cheaper subsequent.
Is he
The number stuck with me because
They
I
had the
thought
original
$3,000 was pretty small for creating a website of the type that he was talking about. by the time we debate this further into the year, it will have been a year since that proposal was submitted, and I don't think we've given him an answer. It was an unsolicited proposal, but we should accept, reject, or postpone.
Well, you're right, and I think we've needed to compare it to some other options, and we still have yet to have those other options.
And we were discussing this last October.
The website has been on the docket since before my time on this committee, and I suspect before all of your times on this committee. It's kind of an ongoing standing item. So, Victoria, the point I think that you're raising is we have about 2 months where Tom and company aren't really going to be doing much related to this for obvious reasons. So perhaps we can actually make some progress as a committee on some front. Perhaps, narrowing down the short list of vendors at a minimum.
Right.
Maybe, well, should we start meeting with them, or should we wait on the requirements to actually tell them what we're looking for?
Well, I think that's one of the things that this committee is going to work on was the requirements, and that was one of the things that was supposed to be
Peter and
provided
I
too.
were gonna do it, and then something came up.
Well, that was the whole mix-up with him. Peter said he wasn't part of that committee.
Yeah, because we had talked about this committee.
Oh. Okay, so let's pick up where we left off
And,
and
right.
find some vendors or something. Gee,
All right, well, seeing
Yeah,
as
again, we had that topic
Dave and
list.
Bruce are not here,
I definitely think you should split the workload.
we have to split the
Yeah.
workload. If Dave and Bruce aren't here, we have to split the workload, so how about I
And
send
just so
an
the meetings have to be with the staff involved. I mean, we should limit the vendors, but then, and we talked about this before, but the meetings would have to be set up with township staff here. Because we want to be able to sit there and question, but we talked about those, the requirements that they were gonna have to meet with, so we'd all have the same requirements to show each vendor, and then we'd invite them to this room and go through
well,
that.
we could shortlist the vendors based on that we know we want a common development, like WordPress, something that if the vendor goes out of business or leaves, any other vendor can pick it up. So we could use criteria, simple criteria like that, to shortlist who we want pretty quickly, and then get into what do we want it to be and can that vendor do it. And
Yeah, because I can tell you right now that the biggest problem that we had on the original committee was that as far as I remember, all of these vendors that work with government, it was all proprietary hosted content management systems. Like none of them were, I can't remember what I know that there was one called eGov Plus or something like that. There was another one that was
do we have
competing
to
with
stay with the
QSET.
government?
Oh, no, I'm just telling you, like, I'm telling you so that we don't make the same mistake again, you know?
Yeah.
Like, our original mistake, I think,
portable.
was this idea that over everything, we had to have experience with, like, the person that was designing the website had to have experience with government, and that really limited our choices to these proprietary content management systems and stuff like that, and that's what we got locked into, and that's where we're
I
at
don't
now,
think we
you know?
want proprietary.
Yeah, I would agree with you completely.
Okay, well, let me dig out what I can find. I hope I can find
Would
it.
you take a look at the proposal
And I'll look for it too, and
that's
see
on
if I
our
can-
table and see what they said?
Yeah, I could ask
How many people
Mr.
do we
Avenue
have?
to give us an update on.
Before we trouble him to give us an update, let's
6.
reread what he submitted.
So,
3 and 3.
yeah, we should do 3 and 3 because, you got probably a year's worth of work for the cable
7.
channel.
I'm sorry, we have 7 people.
Do 3 and 4.
One's the supervisor.
Yeah.
Well, can we have more than 3 people on a subcommittee? Once you get to 4, you're
you know
back.
what, you're an advisory committee, I think you can. Yeah, you're an advisory committee.
Okay. So then, those that are not on the cable committee will be on the web committee, which is myself, Mr. Boyle, David, and Bruce.
That's 4 people. What would leave me off?
That's fine, we can do it with 3.
Probably more efficiently.
It sounded like Joyce wanted to help on that one, or not?
Or Joyce, you wanna wear 2 hats? We'll welcome it.
Yeah, I'll do my best to keep it in.
Okay.
Just
So,
I've been involved in that.
I know Bruce wants to be on it, I mean, he volunteered last time. David, I'm sure will be happy to help. Okay. All right, so we now have a website subcommittee. We've got 1 committee, 2 subcommittees. What are we missing in this meeting?
But to kick these subcommittees off, though, we need all the, whatever I can dig out my archives from prior, where we left
I'm
off.
pretty sure I still have those archived too, so if you
Okay.
can't find it.
Okay.
I'll-
And then for Peter and I to get started on the cable committee, we need, the
governance
templates.
I got all that, I'll send that out.
Except for the ones that I'm gonna provide that Fred's gonna send.
Right, so, but,
But you can start on the other ones.
I'll start on, hopefully tonight, I'll just dig them up and then send them out.
Okay, I
Okay.
won't be seeing them tonight.
All right.
What I may do with the websites is maybe schedule like a go-to-meeting, so we don't have to really get together, and then just kind of cycle through different sites, and we all can kind of, provide some feedback as a starting point. Figure if we do some of this stuff virtually, it might be easier to move it along.
Yeah.
If you're chairman of the subcommittee, would you report to the chairman of the main committee?
I'm happy to delegate the chairmanship of the subcommittee. We'll have a democratic vote on that.
At any rate, when you assign the work to the subcommittee, as you're doing now, will you also assign a due date?
So I think with the cable subcommittee, we discussed having a governance draft for the next June meeting, and as far as the website subcommittee for the same June meeting, we will have a recommendation on vendors. And such as, open source content management system, or things along those lines. And John, if you have any information, you want to email me some bullets of what you would like to see generally without any specifics of the website.
Sure.
Thank you.
So governance on the cable committee, we're presenting,
A draft of the policy.
The policy, yeah, the policy.
Draft policy for the June meeting.
By June 11th or 18th, whichever is decided to be the
Correct.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Anything else on the website?
Nope.
Perfect. And then number 6, the last topic, and this is what I think we started talking about at the end of last year, is we really would like the TNT committee to focus on more than the cable channel and the website, and really start working and leveraging the talent we have within Morristown to bring forth really a technology leadership and advancement, and just solicit ideas from all of our fellow folks that work in either IT or throughout different industries that have great ideas, and see what we can do to implement it, to really put Morristown in terms of, in some leadership position vis-a-vis other towns in terms of usage of technology. One of the things Dave Nicholas had suggested is Wi-Fi hubs. He's not here at today's meeting, so we can't really speak about that. I know he felt like within Comcast, there was an opportunity to provide free Wi-Fi hubs, because it'd be a win-win for Comcast and a win-win for the town. So hopefully we'll pick that up next time. But any other ideas that anybody might have percolating over the past 4 or 5 months that we as a committee might want to work on? This will just be a standing item on our agenda this year. Okay. Well, I think we've covered enough, and certainly cable was very exhaustive at today's meeting due to our Comcast guest speaker, as well as our friends from the videotaping world. So, with that said, anything else? Thank you very much, everyone.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.